I hear everything one way, even though they say I don't pay attention. I do everything the same as the way I did it last time. Still you see my life is pitiful, that I'm selfish and predictable. Though I have no voice to disagree, I don't wanna change. Never get wrong with regret, letting go that you may flags. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the next you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Dad Talk Today. It is Sunday, and we are glad you're here with us. I guess we got an appropriate named episode. Are the churches failing fathers? What do we mean by that? There's already been people that's made their assumption as to what we're going to get into. But hold on, before we do that, if you are joining us today, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so we can get this message out there to the people that need it. Maybe share it with the church. I'd love to talk to them as well. If you would like to support the show, down there at the bottom, Patreon, Cash App, Venmo, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. There are super chats and memberships on YouTube, and there are stars and memberships on Facebook. And for a limited time, your coffee can taste that much better if you message Dad Talk Today now. Get yours for $25. We got 4 different ones, even though I only got 2 right now. One's got coffee, one's got water, one's got coffee. Look, you can have black, you can have white, you can have my face on one. I feel sorry for anybody that wakes up and has to drink coffee looking at that.
Like,
But anyway, hey, we got some people in here. Miss Sabrina, good morning. Jules, what's going on, guys? Today's subject are churches failing fathers, and I want to put a little feeler out there before we get into this, Dwayne. Look, I'm not trying to make this just about the Christian church. We got a lot of atheists in here. You might be Muslim, you might be Hindu, Islamic, or whatever, and that's fine. The only reason I'm going to come at this angle today at the Christian church is that was what I was raised in, and I'm basing this off a lot of the stuff that I have seen and what I would love to see more of. We're not going to be throwing stones. We're actually saying, hey, come in here, get involved. When is the last time, Dwayne, you've been at one of these legislative meetings or in one of these family courts and you've seen the churches backing these people up that are going to it? Have you?
Yes. I mean, I've talked to a lot of advocates, a lot of people that have been involved in and outside the movement. And I mean, I've had a number of them tell me that's the reason that they walked away from the church was they would see their legislators, judges and other people, definitely the small town area, in Sunday singing the loudest, doing all the stuff, and then on Monday taking their kids away from them for no reason or doing things for profit and all that, and the contradictions, the hypocrisy. It caused them to walk away from the church. They again figured that if these people are representing an organization, representing the church and doing the things that they're doing, there's something missing, and they just said, I can't do this, and walked away. That's one of the things, is our churches failing fathers, they're failing fathers, they failing parents, they failing families. And in a lot of ways, and this isn't just our opinion, I mean, there is a body of evidence. There's other people that are saying, yes, they are.
I believe so too, because I believe they have major influence and could use that influence in here to put together I believe the nuclear family was a part of God's plan.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And
Yes.
the fact that the nuclear family is being torn apart and then we've got this going on and they refuse to talk about it. It's about, look, man, I've had my problems with organized religion for years and years and years. And let me tell you why. They got to make comfortable sermons They've got to have routines. So you come in there.
Yeah.
We're going to have you every Sunday morning. We're going to have you every Sunday afternoon. We're going to have you on Wednesday. We're going to have these revivals every once in a while. You know what you're coming to, and you know when you leave, when you come back, what it's going to be. And they want that routine to keep you coming in there. But that wasn't the church that I read about in the Bible. That wasn't the way that Jesus did it. Okay.
Right.
And if we really want to be more like him, we need to get out there and reach people and find out what it is. I mean, dude, he was praying for the sick. I mean, he wouldn't be running away the drug addicts and all these other people.
Is that what the
Let me
sinners-
be there's another thing. Like I have seen so many times in these churches, like if you don't dress the same, if you don't act the same, or if you've got some sin or something in your life, they don't want you in there, or they'll look at you really hard when you get there. Like, what are you doing here? Isn't that the person that you want there? There is a lot of hypocrites, I think, inside of the church. And what I would say right now is to those pastors, if you get out in the world and you see what family law is doing to the nuclear family and the ones that are having to come to your church and go through these problems, you could get involved.
Mm-hmm.
You really
Totally
could get
so.
involved because the nuclear family, especially masculinity, let's not shy away from it. Masculinity, the father in the house was a target, and the father is supposed to be a leader. Anybody that has their eyes open and has been seeing what's going on could notice this, but it doesn't seem like too many of them are, Dwayne.
No, it seems like they're turning a blind eye for some other reason. I mean, I'm an adult convert, so when I grew up, and just to kind of give full disclosure to everyone in the audience that's hearing, Eric, you were raised in a church. Your father was a pastor. You were raised
The
in the
whole
church.
family, dude.
Yeah, your whole family. I was.
I was
raised,
too.
Yeah, well, you were raised in that. I was. Christmas was about a fat guy in a red suit. Easter was about eggs. I mean, the family I grew up in, we did not, we were, I guess, religious, not atheist, because that, there's a negative connotation with that. So I became actually an adult convert to Christianity, just to go ahead and, full disclosure. So I see things, a little differently, because, when people would talk about even bowing your heads or something like that, I always question why. A lot of questions as an adult. So a lot of the traditions and a lot of those things are a little different for me because I, approach it differently. But, what I see a lot of and saw a lot of is what I like to call Six Flags Over Jesus. And
Oh, yeah.
that offends people. But you know what? If the shoe fits, you have the high liturgical churches that have that tradition. They have a high tradition. So it has that everyone dresses the same, you Sunday best and those things. You have more of the open churches, but and I think Brooks even commented on it earlier in the week, is that they've adopted more of a business model as opposed to more of the, I hate to say traditional, because I can give a negative or, give a different idea, but they've adopted more of the business model than the traditional, this is why we're all here and that type of stuff. Yeah, and it's something that needs to change. I mean, from the counseling, the church on the pastoring, how that works. And I would say, I mean, some of the pastors in the congregation, they're unprepared for it, and they're believing the statistics, the narrative, and all that. But a lot of them have, quite frankly, gotten those pieces of silver. It seems like they have that business model.
Oh, absolutely. And let me give a little bit of the background. Everybody hears me talk about being a pastor's son. Both of my grandfathers were pastors in the Church of God. They helped find that denomination, uncles, cousins, you name it. When I was 16 years old, guys, I had gotten so much trouble. I had quit school, but then I found myself getting saved. I was in Christian school at the Christian college at the age of 16, studying to become a pastor. When I got back, I was preaching at churches all in this area, dude. The one thing I said I never wanted to be was a minister. But I think, if I'm being honest with you, Dwayne, I had made so many screw ups as a kid that I wanted my family to be proud of me.
Right.
And so I got into that thinking, but I've always had that rebellious spirit. Right. And so I got in there, and the organized religion just was not gelling with me. Yeah. And so there were several things I would buck back at, like on Sunday morning, drinking grape juice and eating a cracker for communion. I was like, why aren't we drinking wine? He's like, they didn't really use wine in the Bible. Where did it say that? I saw something about you don't put the new wine in old wineskins because the old wineskins taste better. And then they would get mad if you challenge. But isn't that what you're supposed to do? you got somebody that's reading into this. It was just little things like this. But the other
yeah.
thing was going to all these different denominations. Hey, we all pray to the same guy. Why aren't we doing things together? And they did not like me doing that. They did
Oh,
not
no.
like that message one bit whatsoever. And it was one of those that I definitely had a chip on my shoulder, whereas it came to organized religion. And I learned, dude, like, if you ask me, what we're doing here right now is one of the biggest ministries that I know about.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We make some jokes. We're a little inappropriate at times because we like to have fun. And I think that's what life should be about. But at the same time, what we've been doing out there in these streets, helping these families, is a lot more of a church than a lot of the organized religion that I've been seeing, because they got these feel good sermons. Now, when I went through my breakup, it was when I got religious again, right? Because it's like, oh God, why are you letting my family break apart? Why is this going on with me? And I remember there was this TV preacher. I won't mention his name, but he's somebody I really liked, very, very famous.
Right.
And I said, you know what? He's actually got a church here in Georgia. I'm going to go there. And I went there one Sunday. And as I was sitting there, dude, I walked up to that church that like took up the whole side of the street. And the cops and everybody's out there directing everybody. I'm like, oh my God, dude. But I get in there and see this mega church. And then when it came time for him to preach, the walls just went up. They rise up into the ceiling, and then the sun comes in from outside. And I'm looking at this like, oh, the only thought going through my head is how many homeless could be fed off of this? How many different missions, how many different ministries could have been built off of this? Now, one thing I looked down on my father for early on, and now I respect about him so much. He had a church that ran like 15 to 30 on a good Sunday, man. Small little country church, and I always judged his impact on the size of the church,
Right.
And a lot of times he never took a salary. He was the one that was paying the bills at the end of the month because enough money didn't come in through the offering. And I remember just thinking that was a joke, man. And now I look back at it, all the families he was feeding, the families that he counseled with and everything. It was like, my father was one of the best pastors I ever knew, and not just, look, dude, if you're a pastor, like doing this, I've realized when people are coming to you, I got to tell you about my problems. I got to do this. You still got to live. You still got to exist too. So I've seen the other side of it. People will judge pastors very harshly, not realizing that they are humans too. But at the same time, just seeing where his heart was, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a very, very big difference. And what I see now of the church doesn't remind me of anything that I read about in that book at all. And then just seeing like right now, there is none of these guys that are going through these problems inside of the family courts that should have to be going to therapists and counselors. They should be able to sit down with their pastors. They should have backup at these churches. Where is it? Don't tell me they can't afford to get some stuff like this. And the other thing is, why isn't the churches bucking back at the government and saying marriage is supposed to be between this family and God, not with you guys? Where are they bucking back at it? I could go on and on.
Yeah, there kind of, two things, with the churches that, and again, some of them do take that financial and the success a little too far in one direction, and you feel like you do. I'm trying to be a little.
I'm not going to be PC about it. I want you to, though.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was watching Schindler's List last night, and again, great movie to watch. And at the very end, Oscar Schindler, when he had saved, I think 450 people from a bad end. And I hope there's no deniers out there, but I'm sure there are. But they had offered their thanks, and he just sat there. He's like, I could have sold the car, I could have sold his pin. He could have, it's like, I can't do any. He lived a life. He lived alongside of the people that he did not like. Obviously, the German, the bad Germans. I can't say the word on air because you'll get blocked. But he's like, what else can you do? But he also at the same time lived amongst them, but he used that to help the people as best he could. Well, he had to spend money. He had to do certain things that, wasn't, it almost seemed counterintuitive. He had an end goal. Some of those churches, trying to reach out there and to be something, because I see people, hey, do you all have a song program? Do you have all these different programs? Well, if you go to the good book, it doesn't talk about having good slides and party programs and stuff like that. So they're trying to work with that, but they tend to become more of a business model, and that's how they rate it. Going also over to the counseling. I mean, the way the original thought was is that when your family becomes part of a church, you come under the headship of that church, and you are to take their direction, and that includes the pastoring. And those families that are hurting should all be going to through the patriarch, but through the church for healing and for issues and things like that. And a lot of them don't anymore. And our churches aren't equipped, quite frankly.
Jim Smith, I hope you're not judging churches by the example of a few mega churches. Many are doing very good jobs, but not blowing their own horns. No, I'm not. I'm not judging it by the example of a few mega churches. I'm judging it by the majority of the churches out there. I'm going to tell you, I've been to several of these states. I've seen the legislation, what's going on with these families. I've never heard anybody, my church stepped in. There's been many times I've heard that the church stepped in and helped the other side get a divorce. There is many places where they could be helping, and they are not doing it. Again, I'm saying I would like to see them do more. I came from the church, brother. I did. I watched my family, and dude, I've been the black sheep. I've been the black sheep for a very long time, and I'm okay with that, because the only way evil can triumph is for good men to do nothing. I think the image of the church that we see nowadays is nothing like the church that Jesus thought it was going to be. It's just not.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely, yeah. There's no, denying that piece of it. And the criticism that we're talking about here is hopefully going to spur, when we talk about calls to action, for the folks that are involved in church, and is to go to the church and sit down, because Eric and Dwayne and all the other people can't go to your individual churches. I mean, there's so many different things, and say you need to change these programs, or you need to do that. This would be something that a Jim or a Rob or a Donnie or a Mike, Kim would then go to your respective organized or your I'm saying organized religion, your specific church family or religious family, and say, what can we do to help out families? What's available, and then what can we do to help out? That's that arms and feet of the family kind of thing.
Which one of you guys that's watching this right now had churches that showed up for you in this time, had resources for you during this time, showed up with the legislation, that tried to get involved, that is trying to fight against the worldly view of marriage? I'd love to hear it, because I haven't seen it. I just have not seen it. And if anything, I would love to talk to those pastors, Dwayne. I really would. I do believe, again, they could be a force behind this, and that's what they were called to be. Again, let's get the marriages back to the churches. I'm actually saying the churches could take this on and get it away from the government. That's where the problem happened. I believe marriages, but then again, there's corruption inside of the churches too, because what if they start getting incentives? You got to be very careful with how you talk about this. I just know I come from it again. Dude, even when I had my own personal problems, and he was my dad, but I saw several of those marriages when they were breaking apart. My dad was there. Go to their house. He didn't announce it or anything. We just knew what was going on. I saw several of these things that were on the breaking point. And those marriages stayed together because they had a pastor that came and counseled with them and said, look, it's not always going to be roses. Let's get back in here. Let's find a way that we can talk. We can communicate with each other. Little things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of these guys end up going to Christian counselors, thinking that they're going to have some Christian guidance to help them through their marriages. And these guys are breaking up more marriages than anybody. Challenge me on it. Challenge me on it. Who got good results going to a Christian counselor? I'd love to hear from you. And dude, I'm not saying for you not to bring it up. If you got it, I want to read it. But I very rarely hear somebody say, I went to a church or I went to a Christian counselor and it helped my marriage. No, they're breaking up.
Yeah, I've actually,
Thank you, Jennifer.
My personal story here. For my first marriage, actually, I did go to the church, and my pastor did counsel my ex-wife. It didn't work out because, again, her ultimate goal was to get out. So, darn anyone telling her that, to change her mind. And actually she was trying to use the pastor to make me do certain things or not do certain things as far as for the divorce. That was
Right.
that was her ultimate goal. Actually, I went through the church on my second 3-month marriage, and that they offered I'm not Catholic, but I can't remember the what they would call it. It's like, I guess it was pre-marriage courses. The first marriage was pre-Cana, which was the Catholic. I was married in the Catholic Church for my first marriage. Anyway, second one, we did go through and all that. But again, it was a 3-month marriage. That tells you exactly what was on her mind as we went through. There was nothing she was going to change. But the church I went to, they did an amount of that. It's just, I think they're in a lot of ways ill-equipped, but they don't have the same power that they used to. I mean, I would say earlier on, men, women, they would put themselves under the headship of the church. And if you go back, that's the way it was supposed to be. Nowadays, it's like, oh, if I don't like what you're saying, if you're not tickling my ears and telling me what I want to hear, I'm out of here. And that would happen. I would say a lot.
Is that no different than people who show up and watch Dad talk?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They want me to do the
similarities.
podcast the way they want me to do it. And if they don't agree with me, I don't support your show. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what? Comfortability didn't get anybody anywhere, brother.
No.
It just didn't. Mike Whitney put something in here. I actually love this, Mike. He said, family is supposed to be godly and there's supposed to be separation of church and state. Yet the state controls the families and the churches turn their backs. Please debate that. I don't think you can.
Well,
you would love to, because you want to defend what is supposed to be the church. And I think most people would.
Right. Well,
and then we'll get the minority. Well, there is some churches that we're talking about most. Okay. Is there always going to be an exception? Yes. But I guarantee you most of the people that are going to come in here are going to be on this side. So there is an overall problem that we need to do. So if there's any of the churches there that are actually doing these things, thank you. We need more of you. I'd like to know about you because we'd like to work with you. But for the ones that aren't, that's who we're addressing today, right?
Yeah. I do want to address something Mike said, and again, I don't know 100% when he was writing and the where he was wanting to talk about that separation of church and state. There's a misnomer that's out there, is that separation of church and states in the Constitution, which we hopefully all know it's not. And two, it was in that letter that was penned talking about that, it was actually one directional. It's basically we're not supposed to have a state sanctioned church. We can't have a Catholic church or a Christian, one of the denominations, or a Muslim or a nun or whatever. That was at the government level, but it only goes one way. We're allowed to go the other way with that. So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. And I'd of course love to debate if anyone wants to debate that topic. That's a matter of history. But we, at the end of the day, though, we need to have people, being involved in church, changing it for the good instead of what we have today. I mean, I think
Wanda Best nailed it right here, dude. When we talk about incentives, here you go, Wanda. Thank you for putting that in there. She said churches won't be involved with legislation because they will lose their no tax status. I say pay your own damn taxes and speak out and teach what needs to be taught to make changes to laws. Now, when you go into some of these places and you see the size of that congregation in that place, would it really hurt them to pay taxes so they could get involved in that legislation? I dare say if they got involved in that legislation and helped to make laws that protected their flock, I think they would even get more contributions in. It just might not be reflected on the big screen.
Right.
There for the choir.
The challenge to that, I'm going to be on the other side of all this today. The other side.
All right, let's do it. I want you to defend them.
I'll do my darndest. I didn't know we were going to go in this direction, so I'm a little rusty. So when you become and you get that tax benefit and all that, or you change that around, you're going to then be told by the state what to do. A popular thing that happened with same-sex marriage. I'm trying to figure out a way that's not going to get you deplatformed with the words I'm using, but with same-sex marriage. Now, with the churches becoming, going under the state and being part of that, they are then subject to what the state tells them. And when you get into bed with that relationship with the government, they then get to dictate to you what you can say from the pulpit. And we've seen that in Canada and other countries that have done that. That's one of the reasons why we have to keep those things separate. But again, it's one directional. It should be the church telling, going there and sitting at the legislature and saying, hey, these laws are bad for families. Here's the data. You need to change it, and putting church pressure. They have, millions of people in the congregation that they will say in the pulpit, you need to do this, this, and this. You should, change these laws or whatever, and have those people, vote and things like that.
Well, isn't there ways around it? Like they can make profit norms off of it, or they can make different split offs that says, hey, this is affiliated with us, but they're the ones that's doing the legislation. We're over here. If they truly wanted to get involved, they could. And that's definitely my thing. Even if you're not going on behalf of your church, you could go as a pastor. You could go as a congregation. You don't have to say, we're here on behalf of the church. We're here to support this person, or we're here to support families. Right. You don't necessarily have to do it. I mean, any way around it, there is a lot of involvement that could be had that we are not seeing.
Yeah, we're not in ways. I mean, again, I think we can categorically, whatever position people hold on the pro-life position, categorically, most churches are pro-life, and that's, they do preach that from the pulpit where they can. Of course, now that the tax statuses and those things are now being told not to do that, and that's one of the dangers. But they should be. Our pastors need to be talking about this every Sunday in the church groups and teaching it that, the intact nuclear family is best. If you're having issues, reach out. But largely they have their heads in the sand. It seems like. Again, I haven't been in every church. But when you Google this information, when you look at the data, when you hear the stories, you definitely start drawing a conclusion that the churches largely have put their heads in the sand.
They have. Ryan Thompson Lee said, the pastor only called to try to convince me to give the house to her.
Yeah.
No spiritual guidance, no marital counsel, a motel room so I wouldn't be in a tent in the woods.
Yeah, that's a horrible pastor or horrible pastoral advice. And we have people that are, lawyers that are teaching people that are divorcing. Yeah. Oh, if you're a member of the church, we'll do this and this and this, and then try to convince him to do that. That goes back to some of our other history from hundreds of or centuries ago. Anyway.
Well, where there's stuff, there is going to be corruption. I had another page that I was watching, and I agree with most of the stuff they say. It talks about being a good wife and everything, but women didn't belong in the ministry. I was like, I don't agree with that. And they was like, well, why not? Women shouldn't be pastors, or they shouldn't be involved in the ministry. I was like, because I saw numerous times that my mom reached people that my dad couldn't. My dad reached people that my mom couldn't. But there was going to be times where my mom was just as much of the ministry as my dad was. So I want to take it to this. Now you got this young pastor, or whatever. They can be an older pastor. Mm-hmm. But here's his family that's having these problems, and maybe there's a promiscuous wife or something going on, and she goes to counsel with the pastor by herself. I think there could be a role in there for pastors' wives, because we've seen a lot of controversy going on in the churches, to say the least. Okay, so they do got to be properly equipped and properly staffed. I'm telling you, to get an arm to counsel with some of these broken families and stuff that's going on. And I don't want to throw a statistic out there. The majority of churches, it would not be much for them to do so, man. It just wouldn't be. And that hurts my heart so much, because then if they can't come to you, again, they go to these Christian counselor centers. And I'm going to tell you, that is corrupt. The Christian counselor, I think it's all a gimmick, and I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it one bit whatsoever.
Yeah, they rubber stamp Christian. And I got to say, this is one of those areas, I hope people are tuning in. You and I are definitely, maybe we have little nuances, but we're definitely on opposite sides on that. And that's something we could definitely talk about with, female positions in the church and in that position. I would love to jump into that. And again,
I would. Well, yes, absolutely. And
talking about these things.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, I would have probably been on the other side. Let me tell you something. And I'm not saying that men don't do it either. One of the biggest problem with women in the church is gossip. I am telling you, gossip is bad. They know everybody's business. They can sit there. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do any of this. Yeah, but you got a damn mouth on you. and you talk about everybody in their business besides yourself.
Yeah.
And it just happens. And I can see why there's people that say they shouldn't be the leader of the church. But like I said, there is a place in there for the ministry. And I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying I've got the answers to it either. I'm just kind of saying my problems that I've had with it out loud. Maybe not necessarily having a solution, but they do need to be addressed. What's your thoughts
about? Yeah, I mean, these are things to talk about. I'm not a Mike Pence fan, but he did say, like, you know, he was actually chastised for it, but like he would not meet with a female without someone else there to, you know, prevent
I agree with
one of the
that.
things that you were talking about. And that is, you know, and again, involving opposite sex, of course, nowadays, same sex, but opposite sex. There's new challenges in the military. We have it challenge. I mean, you know, inviting that does happen. And just to clarify, because I know we have a lot of folks that like to do, oh, he said that, that means he means this thing way over here. And I'm more of a centrist on a lot of the comments I make. But you know, the good book does say in there, I can't quote the scripture right off the top of my head, but as far as you know, leading the church, and I do mean like, you know, the ultimate head, as far as having women lead certain, you know, Bible studies and certain things like that, there's no issue with that, and I don't think the Bible even talks against that. But leading the church and the examples, and it may be bad examples, but you look at voting and how people vote, and you know where that is, and you look at the different sexes and who votes for who, and how that works. And again, to throw it out there, because I know someone's gonna be like, "Oh my God," you know, don't screen cap just the primary statement. Look at what I really mean. Is that, you know, I'm not talking to any one person, or, oh no, I'm fully invested in church, or I'm this, and you're talking about me. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the data collectively using that example, just so we're all on the same page. You know,
Well, and here's the thing: there's few things they say never talk about, and we break it all the time. Don't talk about politics. Don't talk about religion, right? And here's the thing, guys: we're never going to make any progress in any of these places unless we can discuss it.
Right.
So there's going to be times where you don't agree with me, and I don't agree with you. You might not agree with Dwayne, but let's conversate about it. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt if you don't agree with me. No. And if anything, as much as it might sound like I'm talking sour about the church right now, I am. And I would love to be wrong. Trust me, I would love to be wrong. I've been judged by my own family for it. And then they sit down and they talk and they're like, damn it, Eric's got a point. Because people are quick to defend that. Because you know what, dude, Christian church, I mean, has been very good for a lot of people, especially addicts and different. I have seen it completely transform people's lives. On the other side of it, I have seen it break families apart so bad. Dude, I mean, Carnell Smith was on there talking about, just because it's a church, guys, don't think it's without its faults. I mean, he was talking about 5 different pastors who found out that their wives in the church were sleeping around and found out that their kids were not theirs. I had a really good friend. He's maybe 5 or 6 years older than me, had some health conditions, and they knew about these health conditions when he was a kid. It was going to cripple him, right? Later on, he gets a church. He was married, had kids and everything. He was a part of the ministry with him, left for somebody in the congregation. Now the guy can't walk. And then he's just watching some of this. So there is a lot of this that gets invited inside of the church. And because they're not talking about it, guess what's happening? It's making its way inside. You're inviting it in that church, just like people invite stuff in their home. Right. And when you do not address family law, when you don't address the problems with the nuclear family, guess what happens? It makes its way inside of there too. They could have a much more firm stance behind this thing, but it's like, this is going to make people uncomfortable. If I talk about adultery, I wonder how many people out in the congregation are having adultery right now that won't come back next week. Is that something they should be scared to talk about?
That's the thing. They should not be scared to talk about, though. That is where everyone should go and, you know, listen to someone that should be an authority. That if they go to a church, you've placed yourself under if you're a member of the church, you have placed yourself under the authority of that pastor, under his teachings. And that's what he's there. His job is to teach the flock, you know, shepherding the flock, as it were. And a lot of our pastors don't seem to be doing that. They're more interested in you know making money or that business model, and a lot of them don't spend time. And I'm talking from the South. I mean, I'm here in Texas, so I'm in the Bible Belt, so I know a thing or two about a thing or two on that. Just in the churches I've been kicked out of. I don't know how many churches, because when I converted or became a believer, I was a new Christian. I was on fire. I was trying to figure stuff out. So I started asking tough questions that a lot of people have had. And churches largely would say, get out of here. We don't want to talk to you about that. They wouldn't address the hard questions. And I had to thankfully find them on my own. Well, thankfully or unthankfully, whichever.
Should the churches be working together?
Yeah, there should be at the very least a loose affiliation, but there's it's like what we have in the movement and in the equal shared parenting movement. There's all this infighting. We can't come together and work on things. There should be, and I do see it. I mean, I see different sects of SECTS, not sex, SEX, but different sects of the community. You got your various denominations. You got your Catholic Church, Muslims. You got Jehovah. I mean, you have all these different groups.
So they got some different beliefs.
Yeah, they have some different, and we should be able to agree on the ones we can agree on and work together. I mean, I think we can all agree that solving the marriage and the marriage crisis that we're in, or the family crisis that we're in, should be paramount. I would say.
Well, I mean, besides the ones that say you can have 30 wives or whatever, and the pastor's got to sleep with every single one of them, trust me, those churches are out there. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But besides that, I think one of the biggest common denominators most of these churches would have is the nuclear family, right? When's the last time you've seen any of these churches get together to talk about the nuclear family or to hold a conference or something together?
It's a rare event. They do have will have family revivals or come to family, and they'll have the picnics, but it's really to kind of swell the seats. I don't see I don't know, it's like they're wanting to have it start working by osmosis, I guess, or that if you come, then you'll magically decide to be in the church and learn it's just weird how they're trying to. I mean, when I drive by a lot of churches here in the South anyway, I see bounce houses and rock concerts. Well, Six Flags Over Jesus. I see all these things out there that are meant to bring the young people in and the young families. But there's, I don't know, it doesn't, at least how I became a believer, it just didn't hit me. It may hit others.
You know what else would bring the youth in? If you preached families staying together and then they came to your church and brought their kids.
That would be an interesting idea for them. Maybe that's, well, I'm going to dish some dirt here, and I hope no one knows the churches I've been kicked out of, because there was a couple I was kicked out for this. But a lot of churches actually buy their sermons. There was a place in Oklahoma, actually, and they literally, and I can speak with some authority on this, they actually buy their sermons and then put their name in it, maybe change a slide or two, and they all do a sermon series. I mean, sermon series has their places, but this smarmy, you're the best you, and blah, blah, that's not, no. You
sermon series also has its books and its DVD sets.
Yeah, it's all in making money and, hey, buy my this and all that fun stuff, which I get. Churches have to keep the building open, but there's that point. But a lot of these pastors, they're spending their time, they think, doing other things, and then they're basically just reading off a chart for the weekly series. And honestly, are people being fed? Are they learning?
Good point here, Miss Deborah. She said, in Jeff Younger's situation, one would think the church would have came alongside him with vigor, but they didn't. I feel that organized religion is failing everyone. Then with Dwayne's statement about Texas being the Bible Belt, you would think they would have been outraged over Jeff and Corbin's situation. I couldn't believe they failed both families. Let me ask you a question. How many churches do we see standing there backing up Jeff Younger?
None.
All right. So this is the part they're going to say we're throwing stones. That's not it. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of good things that you're seeing the churches do it. Tell me what are the good things that you're seeing right now? That's what I'd like to hear. What are the good things they're doing? Dude, you know what? The Bible said to be like Jesus. I'm trying to do it. I'm flipping the damn tables over right now.
Yeah.
Like let's get inside of here and see what's going on.
Well, the thing is, with Younger situation, no church wanted to touch that controversial subject, which is a problem.
No, they're scared.
Exactly. they are scared. They don't want to lose members. They don't want to cause this problem or and yeah, they largely and he's part of the Orthodox Catholic, was it Greek Orthodox? Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. But yeah, he's a member, of a church, and they, from what I've seen, largely no one, and even the other organizations. I mean, but again, Texas is actually flipping. So we've got our the Republicans. I don't even want to talk about Democrats poorly anymore. The Republicans have gotten in bed because they're looking for votes. They're not willing to do what's right.
You look at all these different groups that are forming outside of all these issues that the churches is supposed to be for, all the opposition groups that aren't for it, they're organizing many times better than the church is.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of times the churches, they don't want to get involved with these things. They'd rather just do the numbers and swell their. I mean, they look at their success by the number of people that are heating the seats and how much money they're receiving. They think that they're doing a good job. And again, I can speak with a little bit of authority on this. We don't need to get into all the details, but
Respect his authority.
respect my authority. I mean, I have a little bit of information on that, which I don't want to bore people with on the data there, but they're largely more concerned with heating the seats and the plastics that are in the. That's a Mean Girls reference, by the way, but the plastics that are in the seats on Sunday. They don't help. We don't see them getting involved. We don't see them doing other things. I mean, they'll talk about, and they'll Instagram and Instasnap and TokTik their Instagram pictures about how they're helping the homeless and doing stuff like that. But it's all for likes. They're not doing it for the real purpose. That's why I don't talk about, I mean, with me, that's why I don't talk about all the stuff that I do behind the scenes and other stuff that I've done, because that's not. I mean, I'm not doing it for the Instagram likes. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, and it's what's on my heart. But I digress.
Yeah. Mr. Max Perkins right here. He's got a question for us. He said, tough question. Recently divorced my wife, and the church leadership took her side, asking me to clean up my Facebook page of military stuff because there were curse words in my repost. They never asked why we were getting divorced, and it was due to her drinking and anger, which was not displayed at church. She was the sweet one there, angered me to no end. Haven't been to church in a year. All right, Max, let me give you the truth of it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's because they are inclined to protect her. You were in the military. You probably got all these hangups. That language and everything is the image of the narrative of the deadbeat dad, the abusive dad, that it's what Mighty Mouse goes after. Okay. And a lot of these churches are cowards. They're going to do what they need to do to protect that, because if they actually came to you or went into her issues, it might make some people mad. Okay. Unfortunately, brother, the church should be there for you in that time, whether it was you or her that messed up. Okay. And as far as your language that you're using,
talk about your
the church is so judgmental, dude. The people that showed up even before this episode, Eric, you're throwing stones at the church. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Do you know how many stones I've seen the church throw at people and run away from the church because they don't dress the way that they're supposed to, or because they weren't shaved, or because they didn't do something because of their stupid organization that they've got inside there? Again, man, Jesus walked the aisles with the sick. He was washing their feet. He didn't say that they had to be dressed a certain way with a tie and to have these big buildings. What we know is organized religion right now as the church is not the same church that is in that Bible. And I'm going to tell you, dude, when I was out in Baltimore going down the streets where murders and everything was happening and seeing the gang members, I was trying to walk in the footsteps of Jesus, saying, let's go talk to the people that the world has forgotten about, that the government has forgotten about, that the church has forgotten about. I didn't see any of the church leaders or the politicians down there. They said nobody comes to this side of town, but those are the people that need to be spoken to. And now here you are in this season and your family is breaking apart. Instead of taking sides, you know what? Maybe we come together, man. Where did you guys lose communication? Okay, Max, you got some faults going on here, man. Maybe we need to clean up the language a little bit. I'm not judging you on that, but what's going on over here? Oh, you've been drinking. That's not good for your marriage. why don't you guys come together and find the things that you have in common? And then let's find where your differences are and see if we can find a way to converse them and to get over them, because Jesus would want your family to stay together. He would want you to find some of these things. Maybe that communication is just broke apart a little bit. Let's see if we can sit down and in a loving way work out our differences. How easy would it be for the churches to have those conversations? But they won't, because they're cowards.
Yeah, and I would say, as a call to action for everyone here, print out, and if I have to draft something up to make it look good, that talks about what the data from fatherless homes and what happens to children. Print that out and take that to your pastor. That if they have a counseling program, have that be the first night when that couple comes in. Sit down and go, "Hey, John, Sally, if you guys get divorced, this is what will happen to you. This is what will happen to your children." And try to educate them. He had mentioned that he had gotten divorced, and I don't know, maybe I'm trying to, try to give the benefit of the doubt to the church was looking at that, and it probably should be cleaned up. Who knows? But they may have been thinking, well, the lawyers are going to see what's on your Facebook page, and that may impact, some other things. And I'm not trying to take up for him, but I also wanted to bring up, when you were I think it was in Maryland, you were talking to that pastor. And you saw with that pastor how he was talking to the congregation. What did he say? How do you treat
I don't want to put it out there, but okay. So again, Southern Pentecostal. That's what I would do. My grandmother, this is how strict it was, guys. And I'm going to tell you, let me show you where I do agree in some places, because I thought she was absolute nuts. And I had a talk with my uncle about this not long ago. My grandmother believed that a woman didn't wear anything that pertained to a man. She had never cut her hair, because a woman's hair is her glory. Yep. So she had it up in a big bun. If she let it down, it would go past her feet. She had never wore a pair of pants. She wore a dress. Even when she went to sleep, it was going to be a nightgown. She did not wear pants. She did not wear makeup. She didn't believe in that. And I would ask, it's like, man, this seems really, really crazy. Why wouldn't you wear a pair of pants, or why wouldn't you do that? And so I always looked at that as, yeah, man, they went a little too far. But let me say something, Dwayne, and I'm not saying that people need to stop cutting their hair, not wearing makeup, and stop wearing pants. But when you get to today's generation, and there are some of these females, you can't tell that they're female. I look back at it, right, and I'm like, was my grandma seeing something that I wasn't seeing? You know what I mean? A lot of times when we're young, we don't understand a lot of these things until we get a little bit older. And then you look back at them and like, I understand it a little bit more. Okay. But I saw that type of religion back then, and they were very rooted in their faith. Okay. Very, very rooted. And so you didn't cuss, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't have sex before you're married. I could go through, and I think most of that's pretty universal with most of the churches. But while I was there, I heard one of the pastors tell the boy, like, get your ass up, get the hell out of here, or something like that. And he was talking to him, and I'm sitting back, because even though I'm not in the church, I still have all of that inside of me, right? It's still deeply rooted inside of me. And more of it comes out as I get older. Even when I'm talking to you guys, I sound like the Pentecostal preacher up here. I just get it naturally. But yeah, I heard him doing that. And it's like these red flags are going off, like, man, is he cussing? And he's supposed to be a pastor. And then he came over. He's like, look, I apologize. He said, but sometimes you got to understand, in order to reach people, you got to come down to their level. I'm speaking in a language that they understand. Now, I could have sat there and found millions of reasons to be like, oh, I don't believe that. But at that moment, it clicked. It clicked. And what does it say in the Bible? If they're for us, they can't be against us. Getting out there and doing something. Who am I to judge one of the people that's out there on the streets when there's thousands that won't even step foot there, millions that probably wouldn't even step foot there, right? And he's reaching these guys, and somebody's ministry might not look like yours, right? It might not sound like yours. They might not use the same words, but look at their actions, not their words. See what they're doing. And let me tell you something, Max. I want to say this really quick. Thank you for your service, man. Oh, yeah. A lot of times your service is going to be used against you, especially when you go through a divorce. They're going to claim PTSD. See, look, they're already going down your wall. Okay, he's a mad, angry military man. And that just sucks so bad. Thank you for your sacrifice, for going and fighting for our country so that I can be here free with my kids. and you're not celebrated enough. So while they use that against you here at Dad Talk, we want to say thank you, brother.
Oh,
Thank you
definitely.
so much. Know that they will use that against you, though. And here's the church, the one place that you should be able to go to. And this is what's happening to you. He replied down here. He said, agreed. My language was even spoke, but social media reposts. Both are at fault in this for sure. But I was asked to step down from my kids' vacation Bible school leadership role because of the repost, not because I actually cursed anywhere near church. That hurt me more than anything. Appreciate you guys bringing this to light. Wholeheartedly support this conversation. Love Jesus, but the church is hurting people right now. Dude, I didn't step back into church after I was the age of 18 until my dad passed away. And I was almost 30 years old. That's how bad the church hurt me. And it was not my dad. It wasn't his ministry that did it. I watched the judgment and this, man, dude, I know I sound like I'm sounding down on it, but you know what? Things don't get better until you address it. This facade of what it's supposed to be. And it's nothing like that. And dude, the show that people would put on Sunday, and the second they step outside of the church, it's like, who the hell are you?
They sing the
You
loudest.
know, you acted like the biggest saint up here in church, and then like I see what's going on, and you'll be the first one to judge somebody. Dude, it is crazy what's going on inside of there. I think, you know, the Jesus from the Bible, he would be flipping the tables over in these churches right now. And when it came to this, the nuclear family was a part of his plan. And it's breaking apart. You don't even want to talk about that. He wanted to be born of the Virgin Mary. When's the last time you've heard him talking about the importance of virginity in the church? Dude, even that's a conversation our kids have been told pretty much. Middle school, high school, it's going to be common. You're not going to be a virgin anymore. Dude, I wish more than anything as I got older, that was one thing that I would have saved to give to my spouse. You know, and I wish I would have understood the importance of it. But I didn't really hear many people talk about it. I just heard, you're not supposed to do that.
Not supposed to.
That was about as far as it went, right?
Yeah, that's where, I mean, I'm going to talk about the failing of the church. You're like, yeah, I was going to say, I haven't really seen you this morning. I see a microphone in a chair, but
last day of deer season.
Yeah.
I got to turn the air down too. I'll be right back.
For the folks that I was making jokes earlier about him being in camouflagey, and I couldn't see, but to, you know, Eric's point is that, you know, that's where communication is, where the church should be teaching different things. You know, the virginity thing, they should be talking about it, but doing it in a way that does communicate to the flock that of the importance of virginity. You were talking about, you know, why your relatives didn't wear a dress. And actually, oddly enough, I've been watching a series, and I recommend all the red pill folks to watch the series. It's called The Unorthodox Life. And it's very interesting. I would invite you to Google some of the things on there, but and watch it. They did talk about how they were a strict Orthodox family. They weren't allowed to wear pants. The head coverings, they had to wear wigs. And then once you read the Old Testament or the Torah, depending upon where how you do that, but it talks about, it's basically they were trying to set themselves apart. And it wasn't meant to be a mean, you know, thing or to hold people down, but it was there was a number of reasons, and I don't want to bore everybody with all the data on it, or, you know, why they did it and the history behind it. But there was good reasons for them doing that. Not, it was to show respect, and it was to show that it wasn't for other people. Like when a woman wore a head covering, again, Old Testament, it was to let everybody know that they were married, that they were a taken woman. It's kind of like wearing a wedding ring. I mean, different cultures, different ways of doing things. And that's, you know, and again, we need to have our churches and parents, I'd say it, parents need to be teaching. That's the first church, really, is the father teaching and the mother teaching the children the historicity of the church and why certain things are that way. Maybe if we had more communication, instead of just, you know, the pastor, you know, preaching to the pulpit about how you can be the best as you can be now, or whatever they're teaching, you know, hey, have you ever wondered why? Or I was thankful, one of the churches I went to, I was very thankful because that pastor did teach historicity and talked about all these different things. So I walked away learning. So that was great. And that pastor also, I remember I got a book and I put on Facebook, the 50 Shades of Grey series. And he reached out to me on his own and said, hey, Dwayne, I don't know if that's going to be a great book for you to read, maybe something to think about and, kind of talk to me a little bit, counseled me. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. And again, the pastor that I've known for years, he's just a great guy, but that was his style. And he pastored, he talked, he cared. And again, I know mine is different than a lot of,
I would say most of these dads that are in here, if you're divorced and you've went through this, if you got daughters, you're probably telling her, make sure that you don't fall for these tricks. These guys are after one thing, right? And that's not making men bad. Men, when we're teenagers and that libido starts going, that's what we were created to do, was procreate. We have that desire. I think it gets a little bit different as we get older. Men are good, and we wouldn't have any of us if it wasn't for men. But at the same time, I think a lot of these guys are probably telling their daughters, make sure to save yourself and watch out with these tricks. And we need to be doing the same with our sons. Okay. One of the series that we're going to have later on this week is what fathers should teach their sons, because we don't hear enough of what he is supposed to teach him, but we hear all the time what we're supposed to teach her. However, when you have that split up nuclear family, and I'm not saying all the time, there's going to be a lot of times when dad is saying, here is the rules. Here's the structure that I want you to follow. I'm trying to lead my home. I'm trying to lead my children. This is the things I want you to do. These are the things I want you to stay away from. And then you got mom over there, baby, he's just being control, and do what you want to do. You want to go out with your boyfriend, just do it. Oh, you want to have sex? Here's some condoms. Just make sure you're doing it safe. And you're getting that counter parenting over there. The church, this is happening every single day. How many of you guys down in the comments, so we can show it to some church this morning, are trying to teach your kids what's right from wrong, and you got a mom that's counter parenting you because you went through a divorce and she's got full custody? It happens all the time. Look, you preach about the importance in the Bible. God wanted the man to be the leader in his home. Most of these guys are only seeing their kids 4 or 5 days out of a month.
Can't teach them anything.
You can't teach them anything. Okay, so why do you need to be doing this? I want to touch on something for Max, because I believe, I don't know what it was, dude. This was one of those conversations I really have a lot of animosity for. So it's like, I might not be the best person to talk about this, especially on a Sunday, but I'm glad. And I believe you're here for a reason, Max. He said it was labeled as church culture when I spoke with the pastor. The military culture doesn't fit the church culture for our leadership team. This speaks of corporate America language, not the words of God. Let me tell you something, brother. That is a blue-pilled pastor. And you don't need to be under a man like that. I'm going to tell you right now, and you have a different ministry than what he does. And right now, we are talking about this because we want the churches to get more involved, and we need more leaders. I could use you here. We need a Dad Talk Veterans Arm. Would you mind speaking to some of these guys and speaking that culture into them and letting them know, hey, we hear you. You know what you didn't get. Can you help us create it? Because we need some leaders to get out here and reach our guys. Nobody should be going and fighting for our country and then going through this crap. There is no resources. This world has forgotten about our men, and then especially our veterans, dude. Don't make me get into the VA and all that other crap too. I had a dad that died at the VA with a freaking kidney stone. I am just so sick. Dude, I hate it because I don't know his pastor, but it sounds like a blue-pilled pastor, if you ask me. A lot of pastors are blue-pilled.
Yeah, he hasn't really read, he's maybe read parts of his Bible, but he's definitely ignored other parts of his Bible as far as military and what you should do. I mean, he's definitely taken the church, not him, but it's taken a pacifist, and you've mentioned it a few times now, Jesus turning over the tables. He did it twice, and there's talk about that, but sell your I forgot, sell your, can't remember what, pick up your sword. I mean, there's off the top of my head, there's so many Bible verses, and you look in the Bible, there was a lot of war. There was a lot of David and Goliath. I mean, would this pastor tell David to go, well, just put your rock down and just, let things work itself out? Or, I mean, there's so many examples, King David. I mean, I could sit here and go on and on for days and misquote and talk about how Ruth got on Noah's Ark and jokes.
Dude, let's talk about Solomon. Do you know how many wives and concubines that man had?
Yeah, he had a
he could have wrote a whole Bible himself. Forget the songs of Solomon. Like, how in the world did you put up with that many? That's one of the
That's
first thoughts that come to my head.
yeah, yeah, and that was that's that cultural time frame. But yeah, Solomon had a lot. I don't know how he could have done it. I can't handle one, so I joke about that.
Dude, yeah, you got to know what part of the month you're in to know how you're supposed to act, right?
Well,
Not
on
really.
us, we watch wife and I watch Sister Wives because we like some of that trash TV. And apparently, after the 18-year experiment that's been on TV has now resulted in, I'm going to spoil this, so mute everybody or don't listen. But he's now monogamous because his other three wives have left him. So he's got his final
Wow.
wife. So well, that's a spoiler for everyone on Sister Wives. But it's funny seeing how it got there. But yeah, there's a lot of things in the olden days about multiple wives and concubines and all that fun stuff. I mean, yeah, I think Solomon, when he was reading the Old Testament and it said, go forth and multiply, I think he was thinking,
Well, he
one,
better be glad that God picked Noah and not him to build the ark, because they would have had to have a lot bigger ark if they would have had to load all them up.
exactly.
You'd have had a floating brothel.
It would have been, yes. Good old Solomon. Yeah, of course, you got the Song of Solomon. I mean, if you read the Song of Solomon and you read it all the way through and understand the context of what they're getting at, because I know a lot of it's weird. It's a very erotic book that because again, you have a lot of churches that talk about sex being bad, but the Song of Solomon is a very erotic book of the Bible. So anyway,
Dude, I heard a pastor talking about sex, and sex is just one of those issues that we try to stray away from. And you know what? Is it going to be uncomfortable talking to your kids and different people about it sometimes? It can be if you make it. But here's the thing. If they don't learn it from you, they're going to learn it from somewhere. I would have rather heard my parents sit there and explain it to me than some of the crap that they're getting at schools now. And let me tell you, the schools are wanting to teach your kids something that you won't even recognize, dude. This is not the same school that we once went to.
Yeah.
And it was even bad back then, but it is making it more and more every single day. They're coming after it. So when you got the schools that are indoctrinating, when you got the churches that aren't educating, when you got the family courts that aren't protecting, tell me, where are these guys supposed to go to? I would rather, at this point in time, like, I don't want to sound sour. I would love to have some talks with some pastors and say, you know what? Can I come in there and show I stand with John? Can I show these guys what could happen? And then we could do a Q&A afterwards. You can ask me anything you want to. And if you say, how can we help? There's multiple ways that you can help. But again, the 501c3, we got to be very careful. We got to make sure that offering plate goes around and we can't scare anybody off. The modern church to me right now just doesn't gel with me, brother.
Yeah, a lot of churches would shy away from that. Boy, I was blessed. The final church I went to, yeah, they would attack and talk about. I don't know about this level, but they would definitely talk about controversial topics, and then the pastor would give his position on it and why, and have people that were counter to that position talk, because he wanted to have open debate. So because you need to inoculate people, but yeah, or. The on the sex topic, something just hit me. What was your dad or mom's advice to you about sex? What was their sex talk? I mean, and anyone in the comments throw out what your parents was. I mean, mine was funny, but
I love him, and I talk about how good a man he is. Obviously, no pastor's without his faults, and that was one of the things that used to make me mad, is people putting them up on a pedestal too. So trust me, I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical, because I've seen people do it with my family. Usually the ones he helped the most were the ones that stabbed him in the back the most. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
That's what I saw in the church, dude. I mean, I saw some wicked stuff in the church. At the same time, I don't remember my dad talking to me about it.
Ooh.
Except when it became like, Eric, I heard what you did. You don't need to be doing that. That's when it got there. I remember, dude, I learned more about that at church than I did at school. And let me tell you something about a pastor's son. You guys might think I am kidding right now.
I've watched Footloose. I know about pastor kids.
Well, no. Like, I think the people that go love to get the pastor's kids in trouble, because it makes them feel better about their own kids. And
Yeah.
so like I was a bad smoker, and I would experiment with alcohol and stuff. I got more trouble with church people than anybody. That
Oh
was where I
yeah.
got all my cigarettes from when I was younger. It was crazy. I don't
Oh.
even want to get into it. And I had fun with some of you guys. I'm not trying to tell on
I
you.
used to party with all the Catholic boys as a kid. They were some of the most craziest. I mean, they were off the chain
Yeah,
nutty. So yeah, I mean, yeah. And I watched
Francisco
Footloose.
said church might not jive with you, but you want the church to get involved in this matter. What is supposed to be church? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do believe that, what? I think a lot of the churches have not said what needs to be said, hoping not to get in some uncomfortable conversations or making other people uncomfortable. I'm not afraid to do that. Right.
Yeah, we can't.
And
be
that doesn't,
anymore.
dude, I would do this with any religion out there. I'm not talking about Satanism or whatever, because I mean, we're going to have people from all walks of life. I don't believe you just need to be going to the church to believe in the nuclear family. I'm not here to judge anybody. At the same time, I know what that church, they claim that they stand for. I just usually see something completely opposite of what's inside the building.
Yeah.
So, but yes, yeah. So Paul said, LOL, my best friend in high school was a pastor's kid. I know it, dude. It's true. I mean, and it's true. They all like to get the pastor's kid in trouble. I think it makes them feel better about their own kids. So there was many times, like I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I could tell my old man I'm sorry now.
Oh, well,
I put him in some uncomfortable positions many times.
Yeah, as a dad now and reflecting back, I'm sure there's lots of conversations that you wanted to have with your folks going, I'm so sorry I put you through that. And then you have kids and they do the exact same thing to you. And then your parents laugh about that because they did it to you. Yeah, my dad's conversation, I'll never forget. We were driving home from school. I was like 7th, 8th grade. And he goes, if you're going to do that, you better wear a raincoat. That was my conversation. That was it. He was man of few words.
Wear a raincoat.
Wear a raincoat. I'm like, what does that have to do?
So he didn't even explain what the condom was.
No. This was way back in the day. Yeah, it was wear a raincoat. And I'm like full length raincoat, the button up kind. That's what they meant by wear your rubbers. Okay, that's what they meant.
My brother loves telling my story, so I'm about to let one out on him. I'll tell you one of the mischievous things I did as a kid. My dad had invited the old church over to our house one night, and they was all playing cards. My brother was 10 years older than me. I knew where he had his Playboy hidden in the bathroom.
Yes.
And I never told him until we got older. He's like, hey, thank you, because I knew where it was. Okay. But also, I was in his room one day. I was in his room one day, and I found some lifestyles. And I was looking at it, and nobody had told me what they were, but I knew. And I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I went in there as the church is playing cards, walked right up to my dad with those condoms in my hand and said, Daddy, what are these? His face turned blood red, dude. Blood red. My mom was talking about that not long ago. It was one of those like, oh my God, how do we get out of that? I wanted to know.
Yeah, you have questions, or when
that was an opportunity to tell me about the raincoat, like your dad did, Dwayne.
That was he could have said, well, son, those are when a man loves a woman or likes her or is a little confused by her and doesn't want to catch anything, he gets one of these prophylactics. And
so Jay Bird said, what's the church got to do with fathers? Everything. I mean, God is supposed to be the father, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we pray to God the Father, but when it comes to the father in the home, I mean, Max, how did they treat you as a father? They stay away from that conversation because, again, it makes people uncomfortable. And you know what? If you start making the women uncomfortable in a church, you might not have a church.
Yeah.
Because if they start leaving, guess who's going to go with them? Let's just call it for what it is.
I mean, the data that we have is that, women are the ones that pull men into the church, almost like alcohol night or, ladies' night at the bar. They pull their husband in. Most men don't wake up and go, I'm going to church on Sunday and I'm going to make my, nowadays it seems like I'm going to, my kids and that's what we're going to do. And it's usually the women that are ones that are heavily involved in the church. And maybe with the amount of female involvement in the church, maybe that's why we're not having male involvement on these topics in the church.
Jay Bird, my bad. Jay Bird said I've never been to church. That's okay, dude. Like I'm not here to
Yeah.
shove religion down anybody or anything like that. It's one of those things I was raised in, and I've got some feelings on it, and I'm gonna speak it. It's gonna make a lot
Okay.
of people angry, but at the same time, dude, I don't know what it is you're into or whatever, dude. I'm here for everybody.
Yeah,
The
church ain't a
thing is,
building.
we are dads. At the end of the day, we're dads. Do I believe that marriage should be more with the church than the government? Yes, but I'm going to give it to you. The church as it is right now, Dwayne, if marriage got sent over to the church, would it be any better than with the government? I don't think so.
Not today. Yeah,
No.
no, with what's happened, not today.
I hear that all the time. Like marriage should be between God and the church. Well, send it over to the church you got today and tell me if you'll be comfortable with it, because they're not even talking about it right now. But if it comes a way for them to make money and they find out what the incentives are, let's just be honest, dude.
Yeah, they're going to do that. Yeah, I mean, with where the churches, where the church, and again, there may be individual churches that are doing a great job. We need to learn from them. But the way the church is set up today, it's not. It doesn't seem to be family friendly, father friendly. I mean, I've told the story about how I wasn't allowed by myself to be in the baby the infant room for changing diapers and all that stuff, while the other families or the parents would go and have service because I was a man. Um, I mean, there just needs to be church, and that would, again, as I mentioned before, a call to action to all of the people here is to reach out to your local congregations and say, and you brought up a good point, the I Stand with John documentary, which is freely available on YouTube. Having them show that in the church, I never thought about that.
Oh,
That would
dude, I
be
would love it. I would
that would
love
be
it.
a great idea. It's free, so all it is an internet connection. Everyone has their internet connection, but imagine reaching your local churches, whoever Tom or Colin or Francisco or wherever you're at in this world. Call up 5 churches or your church or whatever and say, hey, I want to show this, I want to get involved, blah 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 blah, and have that'd be a great idea.
So Francisco said, actually, the church has the epistemology that we need to fight this battle. Right now, the church has the organization that we could use to fight this battle. They exist all over the United States. If you could go to them, because our message, what we're asking for here, definitely aligns with the church. Just because we talk about 50-50 all the time, don't kid yourself. We are about 100-100. I don't want to ever see a family go through divorce, Dwayne, ever. And there's going to be some of these cases where I don't know that there's going to be an opportunity. I don't know. But if a family can stay together and they can have that nuclear family work together and that kid can have both mom and dad in the home, that is the best outcome. If not, let's find out a way to make sure that these parents can get along and parent these kids and not turn it into a war zone.
Right.
But the church has the overall organization. There's tons of them out there, and we should be able to call upon them for help. Look, the government is tearing apart this nuclear family, which was a part of God's plan.
Right.
Don't you want to fight against that? Or don't you want to raise awareness against that? And if they got this organization, you can make a dent in this thing really quick. Because if you don't have something like that, guess what you got to go do? We're going to have to go build it ourselves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that's what we're going to have to do, because a lot of these guys aren't set up to actually get out there. It's just to preach sermons and to make the feel good and to give you something to do on the weekend.
I'm sort of brainstorming while we're talking. Again, this is all organic, and thank everyone for joining in and getting this, because it's the juices flowing. We do have a wealth. One of the arguments we have is if we could get to couples that are going through a divorce or having problems before they get in front of the courts, we may be able to help some of this stuff. I would say the church would be a great opportunity if we were to develop resources to give to churches to again give to that couple that's having problems. Hey, if you guys split up, this is what's going to chances are this is what's going to happen to your kids, what's going to happen to you, this is what you have the lifetime of challenges here. Let's see what we can do to fix the problem. Maybe at least if we help one church, one person, that it would be worth it. And that's some great ideas. Might have to start. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna start working on that as an option, and that should be everyone here. I mean, this is stuff people need to be talking about, thinking about. I know that you were getting some stones thrown at you about talking about that, but well, if we
That's
hadn't
all
talked
right.
about it, I wouldn't have thought
It's all right.
about that, or the team wouldn't have, all the members wouldn't have thought about that. But
Dude, if
yeah,
you're not making somebody mad, you're doing something wrong. Because evil's not just going to sit back and say, oh, okay, you got me. You got me. We're going to get some people upset with some of these conversations. And it's just the way it is. Dan Cause, I love what you said, man. I'm going to read it out loud.
Yeah.
He said, they always say that the man needs to lead, and they blame the man for not leading, but they never want to talk about the woman not giving the man the lead. Thanks. It is very true. Joshua Weeblehouse. I hope I said your name right, brother. He said, and how successful are you at making a difference when you don't have a problem or a connection with the problem? Let me tell you something. The churches know that this is happening.
Yeah.
Because they got people in the congregation that are splitting up all the time that might have been weekly members or whatever. Now, on the other side of that, a lot of these churches are hurting, especially some of the older ones that still singing the hymns and stuff. And maybe they hadn't modernized a little bit. And it's just the older generation in there. And they don't really have much of the younger generation coming. Why do you think that is? Maybe they haven't talked, or they're not talking about the things that need to be talked about. So these people are not relating. Maybe if they had some more of these conversations and actually opened up and said, we can step outside of this organized thing that we got and actually talk about things that affects people that they will understand in a way that they will understand, maybe we could reach them. But make no mistake, especially for these mega churches that's got any youth going to it, they know that this problem is happening. Max's pastor is a good example right there. Max went to him. How many conversations did he have and try to understand you before it was just, oh, you're doing all this wrong? And they didn't listen to anything you had to say about what your wife was doing. They've been blue-pilled, man. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just
And
be
maybe
honest.
working with the pastors to red pill them and make them see. Now, again, at the end of the day, they may say, you know what? And I never called it red pill, blue pill, but I've had pastors tell me, I've already got the program that's going to work, and you need to leave.
I like this.
Yeah, Dad's turning table. I saw that. I was like, good one. All
Flip
right.
that table. Flip it over.
Flip it. I see a Photoshop opportunity coming up.
Well, dude, I'm going to tell you, I believe, it's crazy because, again, I've got deep roots in this. Am I the most religious guy? No, I can't tell you when the last time I went to church is. So there might be somebody that says, oh, you got no place to talk about it. I disagree. A lot of my family and my history came, building some of these churches. But there has been times doing this, Dwayne, that there's things that happen to let me know that I'm on the right track. And I'm like, I don't know what else to explain it other than God. I mean, it's weird, dude. I mean, I told this story and I got the check over here, South Dakota, when I had to get the rental car, and it was $1,000 for 4 days. I didn't have $1,000. That was my house payment. But if I didn't get it, I was going to be stuck in South Dakota and couldn't go fight for you guys at a political conference. You know why I was in that position? Because we're not making money doing this. Right. But I did. I showed up. It's where I interviewed Spike Cohen and Joe Jorgensen. And man, I could go on and on. Larry Sharp, that'll be on this Wednesday. He was there. And that whole weekend, it was just eating at me, dude. Like, oh my God, I got to pay the house payment. I'm up here fighting for this father's right stuff. I'm not making a paycheck. Like, it's going to be really hard to go home and tell the wife, like, I'm spending the money that we have for the bills where I'm putting my work towards something that's not paying the bills. And I went and did all this work. I was going all week. Will you please support me in it? Even though she still would have, man, because she believes in it. Last day, random guy comes up. What's your name? Heard what we were talking about. Comes back 10 minutes later and puts $1,000 check in my hand. That guy could have gave me $5 or $10. I would have been just as happy, dude.
Yeah.
But the money that I fought with that I didn't have, that was stressing me out. And that last day, it was kind of like, I just wanted to see if you was going to show up. I wanted to see if you were going to do what you felt that calling for. And then it's just one example, dude. I could go over multiple examples that's happened like that. And I'm like, I don't know how else to. And then, like, dude, I have to believe that we got God's protection in this, dude. When we're standing in the parking lot where these guys are getting gunned down and they're dropping like flies. And then we're standing there trying to put a spotlight on it. The churches aren't there either. They're not talking about those dads that are getting murdered. No. When's the last time you've heard them talking about the custody exchange murders? The media is absent on it. There are so many people that are absent on it, but we're there in the heart of the matter, looking over our backs. You saw it, Dwayne. That was just one of the things. I've done that numerous times, but it was sketchy. It was sketchy. And I just
was
have to
freaking
say,
out.
like, I know what we're fighting for. Nothing can come against us right now. And that's the protection that you have to believe is there in order to fight for this, because this is going to be a very dangerous topic, guys. When you're talking about multiple billions of dollars and some of the players that are in this right here, if we start making a difference and we start to create a change, you're about to see evil. You think like people are getting mad right now about a conversation. You wait until you see what's going to happen. If fathers actually start getting some equality in family court, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah. It does remind me of a statistic from years ago. And I'm sure it hasn't changed. If anything, got only worse. But as far as like the folks in the church and outside the church, the numbers on morality, sex outside of marriage and divorce and all that stuff, they're largely unchanged. I mean, there's no difference inside or outside the church, which then tells me that the church is not doing things to, oh yeah, this is church today. Yeah, that's another thing I've heard people talk about. I haven't been to church. Church isn't a building. It's not a, it's you walking every day. It's you communicating with people. It's you helping people, counseling, being there for other people or being helped. That's what church is. It's not sitting there cracking a book open. I mean, that helps because there's some good stuff in there. But it's not a building.
Real church and saying what needs to be said is not going to feel comfortable, guys.
Yeah.
I want you to understand that when you're saying that which needs to be said, that's not going to make you feel all nice and good inside. You're going to make people angry. They're going to want you to die. You understand? Like I was talking to a lot of my family not long ago. They was all talking about their pastors and the different sermons that they was hearing. And, oh, he preached a good one or he did this. And I'm still sitting there thinking, I know I go back to it all the time, but the streets of Baltimore. I want you to understand, like I was in the streets of Baltimore. The next day I was supposed to leave and I was like, no, we're going back. I visited the substance abuse clinics, went down there, talked to the fathers that were going through all this and just interviewed random people on the streets because I felt such a calling on those streets, man, where there was drug rappers and stuff all around me. I was like, this is where it's needed. I leave from there, go up to New Jersey and was asked to speak at Trump's golf club in New Jersey. And I'm telling you, here we are, major politicians, all these other people, suit and ties, and all that was in my head, Dwayne, as I want to get back to the streets of Baltimore, because I feel like that is where I need to be.
People.
Here I am in a country club, but no, those were the people that needed it, and they were listening, and they wanted us there. Right. A lot of times it feels like keeping up appearances at these political conferences or when you got to do these podcasts because you got to say things a certain way or these people don't want to get involved. I don't know that you're going to be able to say anything to make some of these people want to get involved because they might not be there for the right reasons. But for these families that are hurting, and I looked at my family when they was talking about the church and these sermons, and I said, I felt like I was at church more when I was walking those streets talking about fathers' rights than I ever did inside any of these buildings that call themselves a church in my life.
Yeah.
Dude, dad talk. I always said I would never be a minister because it's all I ever saw with my family. This is the biggest ministry I've ever seen in my life. I didn't want to stand over caskets and do funerals like my dad. And there I was standing over John Mast, seeing what was going on. I didn't plan this. It called me. Right. And so I have to believe that God is wanting this message to come out. I have to believe that Jesus right now would say, flip those tables, Eric, and tell them they need to listen. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to come to Dad Talk on Sunday instead of going to church, but maybe some talks with your pastors and saying, hey, he makes a point. Like, why aren't we talking about the nuclear family? Why don't we have these places for these dads to come to? All these dads feeling chastised and having to leave the church just because they're going through a divorce so you can keep her there because you're afraid if she leaves that other people are going to go. I mean, there's a lot of reasons behind it, Dwayne. Now, it's not going to be cut and dry in every single one of them.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, you upset the women in the church, the men will follow.
I mean, there's that happens a lot. And again, that's really the call to action to the Dad Talk Today community. To like get educated and sit with your pastors or sit with a group of churches that are in your area and start these conversations Hell, start off when the conversation yesterday about the Von Erichs. I mean, however you have to start that conversation, and
Out of
hopefully,
everything we could have talked about.
yeah, and then hopefully everyone did their homework yesterday and started some conversations. I'd love to hear, how fruitful those were if they were fruitful. But yeah, get information and share that with the churches that are in your area, the one that you go to or the one you don't go to, and start those conversations. I mean, Eric, you're obviously called to a ministry, and I hope everyone understands what's being said with this ministry. We're all doing, people are seeing what we're doing. We're called to do certain things. You're the Bible that people won't open, and I'm talking to everybody out there, even the atheists. But it you're people are watching what you're doing. You have the ability to do good, and that's I don't know. I go off on a tangent, but that's where what we all need to be doing. We need to make today better than yesterday, and get out there, have difficult conversations, and make change for the good.
So Weeble House said something. He said, "Don't flip over the tables because they'll make an allegation of violence."
Yeah,
That was funny. I gotta give it to you, dude.
Good,
that was a good one. I enjoyed that one. Keep them coming. Yes. Yeah. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. All right. I got it. Oh shit.
I got a double.
God forgive me. So I got to start using those more often so I know where they're at. Mr. Tom Shaw, you brought up a good one right here. He said, first question the church has asked, were y'all married? Judged and condemned. At some point, what difference does that make if the focus is truly on the best interest of the child? We can't unring every bell ever rung, but don't you give up. Now, this brings up a conversation that I had with a buddy here in this community. Hopefully, he won't mind me talking about it because I'm not going to say his name, but he was a guy that went through a really nasty divorce, found out his ex was doing all kinds of things. He wanted to keep his family together. There was nothing that he could do. All right. So, but he stayed in the church. He was an active member in the church. They even invited us out to California. We spoke to a church in front of like 300 people on the fatherless issue. So we have done this. This isn't one of those things that I'm just, doing this. We went, spoke there, and then went and sat up at the front of the church with microphones and said, ask us any questions that you want to ask, and let's do this together. And I think that is amazing. At the same time, after that, he got engaged and was going to get married. And so he told the church, he was like, look, I'm not getting a government contract. We're exchanging vows. We're going to give rings, but we're not getting the government contract. We're going to make our commitment between us and God. They all went off on this guy.
What?
Oh, yeah. They all went off on this, guys. There was people that didn't even want to talk to him because he was not getting married with the government. And he said that he was going to keep his vows between him, his spouse, and God, because that was the way that God intended it. Now, how is the church condemning that? That's how disconnected they are, guys.
I thought this was going to go in a whole different direction.
Oh, no, dude. No, I mean, it got to a point to where they didn't even want to talk to the guy because they still don't view him as married because he didn't go through the government's version of marriage. Like, he wanted to have a wedding. They wanted to give rings. They wanted to give vows. They wanted to do everything that a married couple does except go through the government contract. And which I'm going to tell a lot of you guys, I think that is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that is amazing. And after you see what the government has done to marriage, 100% keep them out. And you know what? Who cares if the church or anybody else doesn't agree with you? You got to do what's best for you and your family. That's why they said that the man is supposed to lead, because you're going to do things that sometimes other people don't agree with, but you're doing what you think is best for yourself and your family. And guess what? Your kids are going to follow your example. So I applaud that dad for doing that. Okay. But the church was the ones that put him down.
It's one of those it just does not follow at all that I figured they would be cheering him. And actually with my current wife, I spent a lot of time talking about my disdain for the government version of marriage. And I really would just rather in Texas, where I'm at, the way it works, if you represent yourself as married, you are married according to the eyes of the government. A whole other. That's how far the tentacles go as far as how they want to get into your business. And your business. But I explained to her, and at first she was like, "Huh?" Because again, she had been blue pilled into believing that you're not really married until the government signs that piece of paper. which again, I pulled out the old, well, read over the contract, the marriage contract, according to the government, and where does it say things like love and all that fun stuff? It doesn't. But I know, I'm still, my mind is literally, I'm not even faking this for the show. My mind's blown that a church would condemn a guy for only wanting to get married in God's eyes. That just, I'm trying to think of an equivalent analogy and I can't. It's
Blue pilled. That doesn't shock me one bit whatsoever. And that was one of those things is like, good job, brother.
yeah.
Good job. And
Yeah.
if your family doesn't want to talk to you, if the church doesn't want to talk to you, what does that say? That's more of a reflection towards them than it is you. But they were all trying to shame him to get him to do that which he knew better, right? And sometimes, guys, standing for what you believe, standing for what's right, means standing alone. And that's when you know that you are truly doing something because you believe in it. And when you stand for what's right and you stand against evil, I'm going to tell you, sometimes it feels lonely. And you might even second guess yourself, like, am I doing the right thing? If the status quo was going to understand it, it would be fixed. We wouldn't have anything to fix in the first place.
Right.
So you're going to have to do that. So like I said, I applaud that, Dad.
Yeah,
Mr.
stand
Tom
alone.
Shaw made a great point. He said, you say blue pill pastors. I agree. Well put. But where are the red pill pastors? Hard to find. They are. And dude, there's a couple of solutions to that. You become one yourself. Or you start having these conversations with these guys. Maybe somebody's out there like, I have a great pastor. I can see some of the points you're making right now, Eric, but he is a great pastor. It's just because maybe he doesn't know or whatever. Then that means you need to have the conversation.
Education.
I would love to have but it's not my pastor. It's your pastor, you know?
Right.
I mean, but I'll still have the conversation. Trust me. I knew when I came into this, I was going to be judged for having that conversation, but I ain't scared. I've been here and heard this stuff for years, but there is one, Pastor Michael Foster. If you can check him out on YouTube, and I think he streams his services. You don't have to be in the building. I mean, a lot of people want that sense of community and want to be there, but Pastor Michael Foster, he's been on this show before. He is definitely as red-pilled as it comes. And then you got this guy named Eric Carroll. I might not be preaching the Bible, but I feel like we're preaching right now, dude. I mean, what we do every single day, I do believe maybe it's not exactly matched to what they're going to be teaching you in church, but the nuclear family was a part of God's plan. So maybe you need to come here to get your red pill, and then you can take that over to your pastor and put it in the offering plate.
Yeah. And that would be funny. Like, well, of course, they're doing it all online now, but you ought to put like your offering and put a red pill on there and go, Pastor, see me, or something. Oh man,
I agree.
My mind's still blown.
Man.
I cannot imagine a church or anyone condemning a guy. And then I'm hoping that he tried to explain it. Like, you don't understand that the government and
he did, dude. They would not listening. They would not listen to him one bit whatsoever. I mean, I watched his brother, and I have much respect for his brother. His brother's, heavily connected in politics and stuff, but it was one of those too. His own brother went and talked to him because he went and go through this after seeing what the guy had already went through.
Right. Oh, I mean, that was, again, for my current marriage, actually in my second, but I spent a lot of time explaining my disdain for the government version of marriage and what it was and what it wasn't and all that. And I said, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I'm willing to make those commitments and vows and all that. That's all very religious discussion. That should go into the religious version of marriage, which is what it's supposed to be. And thankfully, my wife understood that. And again, she had the initial. I mean, she was blue pilled like everybody else was. Oh no, you're not officially married. It's like you're not officially divorced until a judge signs a document saying that you're divorced. That just doesn't, that doesn't make sense. I mean, flipping that around, or you're not officially married until a judge, signs.
Well, see, here's a good example. Miss Jennifer on YouTube, she said, I have a friend who said their vows in church absent of a license, but the husband left her with 3 small children and legally married another. The court had to be pulled in to help with the cost of 3 kids. You know what? I see stuff like that could happen. It could have happened with a marriage license too. And there is, look, I'm not saying anything about your friend. There's other details that I would like to know about that. Can I openly express them? Because I think part of the reason why the world's gotten so blue pilled is because they're not asking questions. What happened for this husband to leave and then go get married? Because that sounds like something my ex would have said. I was away from her for like a year, and then I went and got remarried, and I haven't been able to see my kid, not because I don't love my kid or I won't be there, but because I don't have the government custody thing because I couldn't afford an attorney to go and get it. So there is going to be other parts of that. Is he a true deadbeat father, or is he somebody that had to get away from her? Maybe he didn't want that government contract because he had some red flags going off in the very beginning. Maybe he was a guy that was a deadbeat and just wanted to cheat and do his own thing too. I don't know. But there are some questions that need to be found out. It's not just as simple as because he left, this is what's going on, right? I think and that's that. Remember when we say ways that we can challenge the narratives? That's it, guys. When that type of story comes to you, ask some questions that I'm neither confirming nor denying.
Yeah, don't take it on face value. There's three sides.
Don't take it on face value.
I mean, and again, not saying anything, negative about the person that posted it or that they're lying or whatever. No, it's just there's more. There's got to be more details, and once we uncover those details, then that may shed some more light on it. It's not as cut and dry. It may not be as cut and dry as what's being shown.
You're in that conversation and I've got personal experience with that, getting hit and your ex is pregnant or something like that, or these guys that are getting hit or they're living in these situations that feels like hell on earth, and they get away to save their own sanity because they know how that the laws is going to protect the other side. If those guys have to get out of those type of relationships and they leave that marriage, I don't blame them. You want to hear me? I don't blame them. And unless he can afford to go through that system, until he can, he's doing what he's got to do. If he's got to do that to save his own mental sanity, I don't blame him. I believe in the nuclear family. I believe you should stay there and you should fight. But when I say you should stay there and you should fight for the marriage, and you should be able to see eye to eye. I'm not saying let somebody hit you, let somebody commit adultery on you, let somebody physically and mentally abuse you. When those things start happening, I think even Jesus would tell you, get out.
And it does talk about that. I mean, it's abuse and things like that. And I mean, if we ever want to have like a church Bible hour or whatever, you can Google half of it and get that information. But yeah, you should not be in a marriage where you're being, definitely physically abused. As far as the mental abuse, that's one of those slippery slopes on what is mental abuse. If she comes and says, "Hey, I want to sleep with other guys," and you go, "Yeah, I don't think so. It's not going to happen." Oh my God, you're abusing me. Okay, that's not abuse. I mean, there's that the coin or the phrase abuse has been kind of misnomered. But yeah, I mean, and people may call me hypocritical because I divorced my second wife after 3 months because when we were courting, I just got finished with my first 17-year marriage.
What happened to courting? It's not a word you hear much more.
Yeah, I like to bring out the old words, shenanigans and courting and.
They made it sound so innocent. We know our parents was going and parking up on the hill.
Oh yeah, necking. They were necking. But
what?
Necking. N-E-C.
Okay.
I like to use all the old words, but I courted her for a period of time, wife number 2, and she said all the right things. There was a crack or two in the armor, towards the end, but I was kind of attributing it to the pressure or whatever. And then the day we got married, and I kid you not, well, it was the day after the day after we got married, there was like a switch that just got flipped, and she went like cuckoo, don't know what the hell. I mean, screaming, throwing stuff at me, punching me, it was like the next day, like she wanted to get that piece of paper to say she was married. And then it was just on like Donkey Kong. Like it was crazy. And I, knowing what I knew and all that, I strategically said, okay, we got to figure out a way to get you out of here. So
I had mine begging me to marry her. At one point in time I was going to, after I got hit, and then I was hearing, I need you to marry me. I need you to marry me. And one day I was like, man, how are you going to get out of this? And finally I was like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. We can go up to the courthouse. I want a prenup. Yeah. And it went to hell in a handbasket. Half of what you own is mine. The hell it is.
It was weird.
I've
Yeah,
known you for
that-
how long? Like I got my name on these bills for the next 20 or 30 years and
yeah.
everything, and half of what the hell it is. Like I
yeah.
can see what's going down here. Now, did I get the government contract with my wife now? Yes. If I would have explained it to her, it was before I got a little bit more red pilled, but I
Right.
have no doubts, dude. I have no doubts. Finally, but that was just one of those things. Like I knew going into it, and I'm wondering how many of these guys really have these red flags and that tugging at their heart before they get married. Like, I think this is going to go to a bad place. Why are you doing it? Snap out.
I should publish this for wife number 2. I actually came up with a 10-page document with questions and stuff for her to for both of us to complete. That did a whole.
You made your wife a survey.
Yeah. Well, it was things. It
Multiple choice.
Yeah, yeah. But it were things like, what do you believe, a couple, how they should behave? How do you feel about authority in the household? And there were questions that we would both answer so that, she could read it. And again, she said, the father, the man is the headship of the house. Spouse, is equal yet different. If there's final decisions to be made that are of large consequence for the family, the man makes them. Think that whole finances. What do you think about this? All these, it was in my opinion, a well thought out large document that we both went through, did the survey with, and we actually sat down with my pastor. He liked it. He was like, "Wow, Dwayne, you thought this one out." I think he's still using it actually. But we sat down and we answered our questions and we went and discussed and did the communication back and forth. So we were both on 100% the same page. So I thought on what our expectations were for the relationship.
Well, and I know there's some that do that. So this is not a broad statement to say all pastors, but a lot of pastors could be doing this premarital counseling and stuff like, look, this is some of the things that you're going to encounter. In the first year, it's going to be all butterflies and it's going to be this. The second year, you're going to have things that get on your nerves. She starts snoring really loud, or he farts in bed, or yes, we all do.
Did you read
we all do. Those are the worst too.
Brandy.
When you're trying to go to sleep and they rip one in the middle of the night, you're like, I didn't know they did that. But then you start finding out everything else is going on. And there's going to be things, I don't care how perfect your relationship is, that you and your spouse do not see eye to eye with. There's going to be those times that you don't get along, but how do we fix them? That is the real definition of marriage, not the butterflies, not that first year, not because you're so excited to see, get the feels out of here. Marriage is going to be when you say, you know what? I don't even want to be around you right now, but I love you enough. I know when I'm not in my emotion, I love you enough and I cared about you to get married and we had a kid together, and I'm going to do the work that it's going to take to make sure that we keep our home together, not only just for ourselves, but for our kids. And a lot of these couples have forgot they need to be putting their relationship up on a pedestal and working together. And dude, would it hurt pastors to talk about the intimacy and some of the things in communication in relationships? I know we got to pick a chapter and a Bible verse and everything when we make our sermons, but would it really hurt you every once in a while up in there and say, hey, husbands and wives, let's talk about strong marriage. Let's just sit down and let's take it off. We don't have to feel organized. We don't have to know or feel like it's going to go in a certain direction. If you got any questions, ask me. I'm your pastor. Let's talk. Let's do this together. Let's have real conversations. We don't go around living this life like we're in the King James Version. We don't talk about that yay old, whatever. We're not doing that. Let's have some real conversations that we all understand, and let's talk life. Let's talk life. Let's talk marriage. I would have so much respect for a pastor doing that. Personally, I would love that. Yeah. But getting me on my tangent, Diana White, she said, not all churches, but most pastors are for the women. They go by everything she says. Most churches are filled with single women with children. Where are the fathers? My son was asked to leave the church with his girls while his wife got to go that with her lovers while married. God isn't pleased with this. He sees it all. Read Jeremiah 23. All right, there we go, dude. A lot of times, if 70% above, the woman is going to initiate divorce. And let me tell you something. I don't think the current statistics show this one bit whatsoever. I'll say this is my opinion, but I would stand by it, and I'd bet every dollar I had if we could get true statistics on it, that in the 90s, if not more, she's already got another man.
Oh yeah.
And if you see these relationships when
planners.
they break up a week or two or a month or two later, they're already getting married. Smell the roses. Come on. It was already going on. And the blue pilled men that didn't want to see it happening, even after, a couple of years, I don't think she was doing that. She was doing that. She was doing that. And now she's going in there with him, because not only does she replace your spot on the church bench and on the pew, guess what else? She wants that baby to call him daddy now. They try to replace you, and they'll replace you in the church. They'll replace you in the home. Everywhere that the father's supposed to be, he gets replaced. And then you become a visitor. And so that's another reason why the churches should be preaching this. Because I can't believe, let's make the new one feel comfortable, but the one whose family's getting broke up, that was a part of this church, that I should be counseling with and making sure that his heart's protected so that he doesn't lose his religion. Let's just let the new guy come on here. Let's make her feel comfortable. Yeah. Even though we know if she was having an affair or whatever, let's make them feel comfortable, because we don't want to lose anybody. Bull crap, dude.
How do you think that should be handled, honestly? Because on the one hand, again, this is kind of I like to play kind of not both sides. It sounds weird to say it that way, but so, we should be welcoming everyone into the church. And I say welcome, meaning the doors are open for everyone, sinners, you name it. And that's obviously a big one. That's a big sin. Instead of, is it welcoming them in and saying, hey, everything's cool, let's go forward? Or should there be counseling? What do you think as far as how that should be handled when the new man comes in and, she's been cheating?
Well, is the church supposed to put up with that? Is adultery supposed to be okay? Because if you say that adultery is okay, I guess what you want to say in your church, if you're the pastor, it goes. But if you're going to say that that's against the good book, and then you're not going to go and have that conversation and let her know, ma'am, I'm your pastor, I'm supposed to be telling you what the word of God says, and what you're doing is the sin, or however they want to do it. If you want to make them feel comfortable, you go right ahead. But then you got blood on your hands. I'm sorry. You start tearing up a relationship because you, as the pastor, as the leader of the flock, it was your job to go and say, you're breaking your family up. He was a good man. Let's try to keep your home together. Your kids are now about to become visitors to both of you. They're going to be going back and forth. God didn't want that. And from what I read in the book, he didn't want that. So why in the hell aren't these preachers telling that to these guys? So we follow up what Diana was saying, Mr. Dan right here. Got another story where one of the guys in the church wife left him, and the wife had the audacity to show up with the new husband less than a year later, and the church doesn't bat an eye. This is what we're talking about, guys. Sometimes they don't wait a year. It could be the next week.
Yeah.
It could be the next week. I've seen it all the time, and they have learned to accept it. They have learned to accept it. This is what I'm talking about. The comfortability. If you're going to say this is what the church is supposed to stand for, and you can't even speak and let people know, we're not trying to judge you here, but you could go and have a simple conversation and try to keep this home together. Would Jesus have left? Would he not have had that conversation? I think this Jesus is what everybody's got their own Jesus, and they make him what they want him to be, right? And because he would do this right here, this is what I think he would do, because that's what I want to do. Whatever they want to do is what they think Jesus would do, right? Yeah. That's the problem. You've made your own little version of Jesus. He can be any gender, he can be any color, and he can do any of the things that you want him to. No, go in the book. It's the same book. And you guys, if you're sitting there and you're putting up with this and you're not letting your congregation know what's right and what's wrong, then you're not a pastor in my eyes.
No, your job is to learn the book and teach the book. That's your job. Not having a rock concert, not having revivals, that's your job. If you're not teaching that, you're not doing your job. But I again, I'm kind of biting on the one thing. It's like, so that person brings in their new man, their new woman, whatever the case may be. Like, what should the church, and these are, I guess, conversations to have, because I wonder if the pastor's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I know that Billy. Well,
it's your job to learn. You have to study for your sermon, right? So it's one thing to study the Bible, But how is the Bible coinciding with the everyday life that your flock is going through? So
Right.
if you do not, I put this the same with politicians. Politicians run for office because they want to make our lives better. They want to make America great again. They want to do all these things, and they don't know half of the things that you're going through, but yet they want your vote. And so when you go talk to them about the issues that affect us, a lot of them talk to them about family law, Title 4D, all these things. I don't know what's going on with that. But hell, dude, you're wanting my vote to get in there and make my life better, and you don't even know what my life is. So I put this with the pastors. You're in there and you're supposed to be leading a flock, and you don't even know what they're going through. You don't need to be in that altar. You don't.
Yeah. Good.
Am I
Very good
wrong?
point.
Please.
No.
Or
No.
yeah, dude, I want to know. I feel very strongly on what I just said, but if I'm wrong, I will gladly step back and say, you made a
No.
great point. But if you do not know what these guys are going through, and you are the one that's supposed to be preparing them against the earthly sins of the world, and you
Right.
don't even know what those sins are, or you're too afraid to talk about them, you are not a pastor. You are a salesman. You are a person that makes people comfortable to come back in every week and let's pass around the offering plate, because I'm good for the church, but you ain't no damn good for your people.
Yeah, no, that's very, yeah, you're definitely on fire. You got the, you're, I mean, you're definitely,
Dude,
yeah, no, this is
you
stuff
sit
that
back
needs to
and
be
drink some
talked about.
coffee.
You need to drink coffee to bring yourself down.
Dude, I am
Yeah.
so like,
This,
this is why I don't talk about it. This is why I don't talk about it. And dude, when you get in there with the organized religion, they've got this stuff. We talk about parental alienation. Can we talk about religious alienation right now? Huh? Has anybody ever talked about religious alienation? There is these guys that believe what their great grandfather believed, because that was what they taught them, and that's what they taught them, and that's what they taught them. But if you actually sat down with them and said, explain this to me, show me where it's in the book, show me why this is the way that it is, they're not going to be able to explain any damn thing to you. But these and then blasphemy, it's a sin. If you start saying something that makes them feel uncomfortable because it challenges that which they know, that religious alienation, blasphemy, you can't have this conversation. He who without sin cast the first stone and all that, because they want you to shut up.
yeah.
I won't shut up. I like to push. I like to
Yeah.
push, because that's not what I believe, dude. I read several different versions of that Bible inside and out, and got out there and did what I felt in my heart. Not because I didn't want to be the guy that went through church doing the same act week in and week out because that's what I was told to do. I wanted to know what I believe,
Right.
and I wanted to find it for myself, not because it was just passed down to me. And
Right.
so when I would have these conversations, there was all these people that tried to shut you up because they're full of that religious alienation. And I can't do it, dude.
No.
I can't.
I
And
can think out
dude,
of
when
many
I go into the
churches.
churches, I could go on more and more. It sickens me. I know what I do right here with Dad Talk, dude, with crumbs. With crumbs. If I had some of the money that these churches did, dude,
Got you
shut
fired
me up,
up.
dude. I mean, seriously,
Fire and
it is.
brimstone from the pulpit of Eric Carroll.
I'm not telling anybody that they're going to hell, but right
No,
now, I
I'm
mean, these
joking.
preachers, if they can't put these families together and they can't make somebody feel uncomfortable, I'm sure I'm making somebody feel uncomfortable right now. Ask me if I
Good.
give a crap. No, I'm saying what
Good.
I believe, and I'm inviting you. If I'm wrong, look, I'm not saying I want to be wrong, but if there is somewhere where I'm wrong, I want you to inform me so that I can be right. But right
Pastor,
now, this is what I've seen, and I've seen it my whole life. And
Yeah.
they could be this mega force behind change, but they don't know what change is.
Nah.
It's
They-
the same thing each and every single week. And like I said, when you compare what you're seeing in these buildings to what you're seeing in that book, they're not matching up.
Even in the parking lot. I mean, you ever go into church and they're singing all loud and they're running over you in the parking lot to get out to, I mean, that's how crazy a lot of this is. But no, you're telling the truth, because your pastor should be heating your seat up on Sunday. If he's just tickling your ears, they talk about that in the good book too. Tickling your ears is not, yeah, there's always room for improvement. There's always controversial things to talk about. The pastor you should walk out of there feeling fed. And that doesn't mean eating a bunch of carbs. Hopefully you're still not doing your carb thing, or did you already blow that this week?
Oh, I blew it.
Okay.
I blew it. Well, I got so busy with Dad Talk, I went a whole day without eating at all.
Oh, wow.
And then I didn't even realize it because I was in here working. Well, the next day I got until like 7 o'clock that night and I heard my stomach go.
You're like,
I was like, oh, I haven't eaten in a day and a half. And so I wanted to go in there and eat on my diet, but dude, that cheeseburger and everything else just came calling my name. And then that's what we do. That's what we do. It's okay. If you just eat this, you'll be okay. Yeah, dude. I had a pizza last night and a couple other things. It'll be all right. I'll get it. I
You'll
usually
get it.
do. But
so are you gonna go
well,
back?
I mean, it's even hard. Huh?
Are you gonna go back? I'm gonna relate this back to kind of the
Oh, of
conversation
course.
we've been
Yeah.
having.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
you
yes.
slip and fall, but then you
I will.
realize, you learn, and then you move forward until the next cheeseburger comes along or pizza.
Dude, why can't they have a pizza diet?
They
I
do,
actually
it's
do have
for
a pizza
the
diet.
heart
I've lost
attack
weight with
victims.
pizza.
Really?
No. I've lost weight with pizza. There is a pizza called Palermo's, and it's got like
Oh, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
2/3 less carbs because it's an ultra thin crust.
Right.
And I'll eat one of those a day because it's like 1,000 calories. And I've lost a ton of weight on it. My problem is I hate vegetables. Me and vegetarians do not get along.
Yeah.
I feel like a goat, man.
I know.
I want my carbs. I want my meat. I'm gonna go get my deer meat today. I ate deer meat for breakfast this morning. I feel like, yeah, I got my red pill ready.
Got it all ready to go.
I know
But-
this is one that Morgan gets heated up at. Let's read one of his comments. He
That's
said,
good.
I've been given banned orders because I told the churches they were wrong and told the church they were wrong under the threat of arrest. Ridgeview Church of Rockwall, Texas, and Shoreline City Church in Dallas, Texas. I mean, dude,
I'm sure Jeff went in there very nice and quiet.
I'm
Meek
sure he
as a
did.
mouse.
I bet he flipped some tables too.
He's a table flipper, and you know what? There are times when that makes perfect sense. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do in order to do that. And there's been a lot of, Jeff's story involved the church, and a lot of bad stuff happened there. And they're a very large church and a very, very quote successful. It happens.
There is a lot of these things that you guys think, and I'm going to tell you again, the blue pill speaks, and they're afraid. No, it's one thing to talk about the churches making these women feel uncomfortable because they're afraid they will leave. But how many husbands and spouses are doing the same exact thing? They're paying lip service, and your wish is my command. Oh, you're not going to give me any tonight. I'll do whatever you want. Just make sure that I get that. More men have been manipulated by sex and women than anything out there on the face of this earth. Let's just be honest. So there's some of these things that you guys are going to have to speak up because you love your family and you love your wife. This isn't going against your family and your wife. This is speaking up for your family and your wife. Look at what's happening. Look at the single parent homes. Look at what's going on in the churches. Some of you guys are going to have to step up. So when I say that, if we say something that resonates with you this morning, because it's Sunday, I want you to say amen. Okay. Benjamin Boshaw. I'm going to get in here. He said, the women simply want to feel in control of some level of importance in the congregation. And if you make a decision that challenges that, they leave with their families, and husbands just say, yes, dear.
Yeah.
Is he telling the truth? Amen.
Amen.
Let's be honest. A lot of guys ain't going to want to admit that one. But if the wife wants to leave, the husband will follow.
Yeah.
Who is supposed to lead, Dwayne?
The man is supposed to lead. That is the way. If you're, again, talking right to the church folk, that's the way it's written. That is the way it's been, the way it is, the way it always shall be. And when you have women leading the church, that's when you and I, kind of had differences of opinion before on women having positions of highest authority in a church. That's where I'm like, well, then you have these challenges, because if she emotionally feels that this is right or wrong, she, may make a decision. Hopefully a man, if he's red pilled, won't do that. And hopefully the woman, if she's red pilled, won't do that.
We must be feeling like church right now. FTWS 41 said, do I owe you any money now? Yes. All right, everybody, deacons, come up to the front. We are going to pass the offering plates. Let's get those stars going in these offering plates. No, dude. I tell you what, if you believe in what we do, and if you guys want to get into the memberships and you want to support this podcast, we show up, don't we? And
Oh,
I can
yeah.
show you.
Yeah.
I show you 43 states we went to, political conferences. I don't know anybody that's talked to more legislators behind this. And that's not trying to say to our own horn, but
Right.
it's saying, let us show you what we can do. And if you would like to, you see how fired up I've been this morning. It's because of this new coffee and this new coffee cup. It can make you feel like a teenager again. If you drink your coffee in this, those statements have not been evaluated by anybody, the FDA or anybody, but I believe in it. Okay.
Yeah,
I believe in it. And it's the power of the Dad Talk Today. And they've all been like lined with red pill right here. Now I'm starting to sound like Bill
They've been
Cosby.
blessed
That is
with
a
red
joke.
pill. Yeah.
That is a joke.
been blessed-
Metaphorically,
they've
as
been
Dr.
blessed
Brooks
by-
would say.
They've been blessed by the red pill. How about that? They've been blessed, and all that. Well, it's funny you mention it. It's something I thought about with the offerings and things like that. The church that I identify with most, they have offering boxes in the back of the church, and if you feel led to give, you do it. They don't talk about it. It's an interesting thing.
Completely left field, but you'll find this interesting, guys. This is another part of religion, and I'll show you how people use it as a sales gimmick, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the greatest magician of all time, what would you say his name was?
Oh, well. Okay. Well, we're talking about popularity. Would be what's his name? Houdini.
Houdini. Okay.
It's who I
When
would-
Houdini died, there was somebody that took over his spot and started, because Houdini at the end of his life started debunking psychics and all this.
Yeah.
And he let everybody know that magic isn't real. And there was a lot of sales gimmicks and different people like were psychic, palm readers and everything.
Right.
So the amazing James Randi took his place and he would debunk it. And he for years had $1 million up for grabs for anybody that could come show him true magic that he couldn't debunk, show him how they did it. It was really cool.
Mhm.
What he did one time though, and then the guy that preceded Randy is the world's greatest escape artist. Dean Gunnarsson is actually an alienated parent that came on this show. If you hadn't seen Dean, dude, like he's hung over like 1 foot over the Hoover Dam, getting out of a straitjacket and stuff. Really neat stuff. But the amazing Randy, one time, he liked to debunk these people that take advantage of people.
Yeah.
And there was this really popular TV evangelist named Peter Popoff. And so he went for like 2 weeks to this thing. And when you go to Peter's thing, it would ask for your name, your address, and what you wanted prayer for.
Right.
And then you would put it back in the box. And then they would know where you were sitting. So one day he wanted to know, like Peter was calling these people out in the audience, you've got cancer. God said he's going to take away that cancer. You got to, make a contribution. He said he's got you healed right now. And there was all these people falling for it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Randy had this earpiece that was intercepting the signals in there. This preacher's wife was in the back room reading those prayer cards, telling him where they was sitting, what their name was, and what it was they was going through. The only reason he got caught is Randy put a card in there, claimed he had some sickness and all this, and the preacher prayed for him and told him he was healed of it. And he came back and said, look, I've got recordings of your wife. I got recordings of you, and shut that ministry down. But here is people that were coming there with cancer, that were on the verge of dying in some of the most vulnerable times of their life, and there was somebody taking advantage of it. And this just it happens every single day, guys. And don't think that that's not still in the church. It's in the family courts. It's everywhere. It's in every facet of life. I'm not just trying to pick on the church. That was one example of some of the stuff that goes on. Dude, thank you. New Life. $9.99.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Help us do a lot more. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
Look at some of the comments here.
Where else is anyone bringing as much awareness to this situation? Dude, somebody was in here talking about Jordan Peterson. That is a guy that I would love to talk to. I haven't gotten to talk to Jordan.
A lot of
sitting back listening.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of 50-50 stuff going out there, and he's been definitely getting a lot of awareness. I know Greg Ellis went on there. I've talked to Greg several times. There's a lot of people out there. We're not trying to like Dad Talk is the end all be all to this thing. We want more of you. And I think this conversation that we're having right now is more, we wish the churches would join us.
Yeah.
We're not
Oh, yeah.
saying that that it's got to be dad talk. Like, dude, if some of these churches would start getting on these issues, well, I'll go and I'll sit in the congregation and I'll support. I don't need to be up there in the pulpit preaching. But right now, as of what I see, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of put a fire in me. After we're done with the show, I'm gonna go and talk to the better half here, and I'm thinking I might do something because we have I'm in the Bible Belt, so church was on every block, sometimes on every corner, and that I might put some pen to paper and put something together and start the dialogue, start the conversation, and I would invite everybody else to do the same thing. I mean, for your area, that's an area that we can make change in. I mean, it's got a fire lit under me. That preaching that you were doing earlier. I can heal you. We can fix this. But that's something that kind of
I've
spoke to me
seen it,
to
dude.
do
I've
it.
seen it. I've seen there's a lot of people that think like the whole Pentecostal thing is just BS. Like I saw my family go under a lot of scrutiny because they're upbeat. They
Yeah.
speak in tongues and all that stuff, and it sounds crazy. I seen some of the hoopla inside of the Pentecostal church 100%. I've had them try to push me in the floor, screaming in my ear, the whole 9 yards. And I'm
Right.
like, what is this? But also saw, like, I was talking about my grandparents and their faith and some of the things that went on there, dude. And I can't explain it to you. There's
Yeah.
no other way to explain it. I think you got your genuine ones, and then you got the ones that I don't know. And it's one thing that I can tell you, though, is whether it's speaking in tongues or whether it's once saved, always saved, all these little different things that
Yeah.
disconnect these churches. There is one thing that you should have in common. And it's the person that you're serving. And I'm going to tell you another thing that you should have in common is the nuclear family, because he would
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they came together holding family conferences and actually had places for families to go for date night and all these other things instead of the places that they have to go to? There is
Yeah.
so many different ways you could get involved. And
Oh,
if
yeah.
I had the funding, I'd create them.
Yeah.
Well, you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all over the world, getting into those churches, and I mean, that is an untapped. If it's done the right way, an untapped resource that we can get into. Unfortunately, and speaking for some of the commenters that were mentioned before, there are some challenges with the churches. They like the model because it makes them money. They don't want to do anything controversial, and that's one of those lukewarm churches. We all know what happens to those, but whole different topic.
Dude, and there's the thing I've been seeing in the comments, and I'll bring it up. I usually try to stay away from it just because it's one of those that you got to understand. Like, they try to take these examples of what goes on in this community and use it to discredit everybody. But people keep asking about cash.
Oh, yeah.
From my understanding, I know a lot about that. Me and Ted were good friends.
Yeah.
From what I hear, there was recordings. Let me say, do I understand how people are getting to that place in their head? Yes. If you feel like you've done everything you can and there is no relief in sight, I'm afraid you're going to see more examples like that. But let me say this. I never condone violence.
Right.
I cannot. And
Right.
I'm not basing that upon faith or anything else. They try to make us look like a group of angry, deadbeat fathers that don't want to pay child support. And when people bring up violence, that is the first thing that they'll get. That's what the legislators are going to see. You could have a million
Already have.
peaceful fathers over here doing everything right, trying to advocate. They're going to take that one person and say, this is who's doing this, right? And you have to be very, very careful with that. I don't know particular what was all going on in that situation. Like I said, I've had talks with Ted Bush, but that is one of those situations it's hard to get involved with because, again, I don't believe in violence. At the
optics,
same
yeah.
time, before all this went down with Cash, I called him off screen. Me and him sat there and had a conversation. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, I just want
Yeah,
to check
great
on you.
guy.
This isn't a show or anything. How are you doing? You doing all right? Because I feel sorry for the guy. He went through a lot. And I tell you what, he was a very charismatic person. That's why people are still saying his name a year after he's already been in prison for this. The other part
No
of it,
bail.
though, is no, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if there is any relief in sight anytime soon. I hate it, dude. I mean, I really do. I don't know. Like I said, and what I was getting from it was, through Teddy, and then Teddy passed away not too long ago. And then dude, I was wanting to get Teddy on. Here was a father that was going through cancer and they're putting him in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
That guy did jail time. while he was going through this. It was
Pancreatic
crazy, dude.
cancer. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and I mean, yeah, don't condone the violence, but and your comment about it getting worse is going to be accurate because before 10, 20, whatever years ago, we were sold a bill of goods that there is hope that if we fight harder, if we do this or we do that, or the laws are going to change, well, now we're finding out just how rigged the system is, just how hopeless it can be. And when you've taken hope away from everybody, what do they have left? I mean,
I think
that's
it's designed to take away that hope and make you just feed it so that
Mhm.
you don't challenge it.
Yeah,
Right. And then when these guys get to this point in their life where they're like, all hope is gone, this is the only solution, then they take the snapshot and see, we told you that's who that was all along.
yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what they do. It's no different than what your exes do. They'll take your kids away from you. They'll make sure that you're putting all your money in the family courts. And then when you can't fight anymore, when you can't afford the supervised visitation, see, he's not even trying. I told you that's
Yeah.
who he was.
Right.
And dude, it's gaslighting too, because you want to be like, you really want to know what I
Definition.
got to say? You know what I mean? But
Yeah, they look for you to do that. They push you and push you and push you, looking for you to respond that way. And then when you finally do, after you've been broke down, then they snap that picture and say, "Oh, see, this is what I put up with for the last 20 years, or whatever." But they fail to show that you have been pushing and messing with them this entire time. I mean, you're taking their kids away from them, the thing that they love most in life, and you've removed that from them, and you're playing games with them. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, not to talk too much more about Jackson's situation, but the court system played with him. I mean, they toyed with him like a cat with a thing, and did all these nasty things, underhanded, and every time he would try to seek relief, they would play a new game on him, and he got tired of it. I I don't condone the violence, but I don't want to be the deciding member on a jury. Let's put it that way, because it for me, speaking me personally, not anything related to Dad Talk today. I understand it. I can at least understand why. Do I condone
dude,
it? No.
I could already see excerpts of Dad Talk like
Oh yeah.
today when I was in here. This is how I feel. That's the ones that are going to be used.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, you know what? Make sure you show the whole clip, and I don't care how you show me swinging my arms. And if they want me to clarify it, I'll do it because I believe in what I'm doing. But they've got to create this image. Okay. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to speak on, because before you speak, you got to know how it's going to be used against you.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't
Yeah.
just get on here. And I think so many people are so emotional. They just want to say this, and this, and get it out. And they don't realize everything you say and or do will be used against you in a court of law and public opinion. That part they
Exactly.
usually leave out, but
Oh, yeah.
they'll use that one little snippet that they named to get their traction. Right now, if it goes to the Texas legislation, Stephen Amy Bresnan, how many of these good guys that are doing this are you wanting to use as the examples? Do you want the guys that have just feel like they got no other hope and that you've been fussing back and forth with, but you have a whole building of people that are doing the right thing? They're out there, they're grassroots conservatives, and they are fighting for the right thing. But tell me they're not going to want to use that exception,
Oh yeah.
right?
They're
Oh, am I
already
not
saying they
supposed to
are.
say that on the screen? Let's be honest. That's what they
Yeah.
do. These lobbyists and these politicians and everybody, they need that exception to say this is who they are and why we're not going to do it. And then all of you other guys just get left behind.
Mhm.
That is what they do with this issue. So we have to be very careful in how we operate everything that we do. I understand why that's going on. If somebody goes out and does some of these violent things, am I going to raise money for them or get out there and say, yes, they did the right thing? I can't, dude. I can't. I believe in peaceful means, and I understand how people get there. At the same time, doing this, you can't let your emotions override you. We may look upset, we may sound upset, and we may be getting the message out in what sounds a very heated way. We have good reason to, but at the end of the day, we know what we're fighting for, and we
Okay.
got to watch the way we talk.
I'm gonna flip this around a little bit,
Do it.
and I'm gonna say David, and you let me know if I can go further than that. But he had a situation that happened. Not a situation. he was a father that was going through. I couldn't even begin to imagine what he was going through. It was worse than I would say the majority of situations anyone has to deal with. And he would sit there and talk about, what was going on and the courts messing with him and not letting him see his child and all this horrible stuff. And he was very calm talking. And people would say, he doesn't care. He's putting on a facade that he doesn't care. So like you're talking about taking away someone's kids. You're supposed to be, all these emotions and anger and being upset. And they're going to say on the one hand that, you're an angry dad. But then when you have a father that was, trying to be composed and dealing with all this internally, then they say that you don't care. Or
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. And that's another thing too that you brought up is that, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm tired of people judging me, whether I'm happy, mad, sad, glad, all the emotions or none of the emotions. This message needs to get out. And you're going to have people out there, no matter what you do, they're going to have an issue with it. You say dads are important. Oh, what about moms too? Moms are important. What about it's I just get frustrated.
Well, dude, like I said, a lot of the hardest criticism we get is from people inside of this movement because they've got this idea in their head of this is what you're supposed to be doing. I can't tell you how many different people say they got the answer to family law. Why in the hell ain't any of you doing it? Come on, do it. But you're coming to me saying I'm doing it wrong. I think I've been doing some things right. I'll admit to you, I've made a lot of mistakes doing it because I'm throwing stuff against the wall, trying to find something. But we've done a lot of things right, and we've made connections with a lot of people. But at the same time, dude, they don't understand the strategy I was just saying. If I go and do this that you're saying, what's going to come back at us?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about that part. You're thinking with emotion, and I need it now. I'm thinking if I do that right now, what is it going to set up this battle for a little bit on later down the line?
Right.
And people will attack you for that. Then they'll misjudge you. They'll mischaracterize you and everything because you're not giving them what they want. And you want to know what I think when I see people like that is what did your wife go through in that relationship?
Yeah. Wow. You're really getting honest because
I'm getting honest. When I see the advocates that do that, you need to do it my way or the highway, and you're not doing what I want. So you're doing it wrong. I can't support you because you're not doing it my way. I'm thinking, did you do this with your wife? Is that your version of leading? Because you don't want to listen. You just want to speak. Right. And I can tell you a relationship like that had to be hell. Okay. A relationship like that had to be hell. Just because you're in this community, you say I'm alienated and this and this and this happened to me. Most people aren't going to tell you they're part of the equation. I actually feel very proud of these guys when they come in here and say, this was my part of the BS, but this is what I went through. Right. Because we all have that. But the ones that just have the demands and think that they're supposed to tell you what to do and all they can do is Facebook comment are the problem in this movement.
Woo, you're on fire today. I thought you were on fire earlier. You're on fire right now.
Dude, 2023 is the year, dude. 2022 was a break from 2021 and 2020. I mean, we was nonstop. And dude, I still done a crap ton in 2022, but it was more of a break compared to the years before that.
Right.
And I've been sitting back like, if I go back to what this movement's always done the past 3 years, I know where it got me. What is it going to get us? I'm not doing this for no reason. I want to make progress.
Right.
So let's tell our people what they need to hear, whether it makes them feel comfortable or not. And let's just get real, strip down. I'm not here in a suit and tie. I'm not trying to talk to politicians or impress anybody. I'm in my camo. And when I get done, I'm going to go get me some more deer meat. But while I'm here, I'm going to spit it out the way that I feel about it. And right now, most of these guys are Facebook commenters that know the answer to the world's problems, but they don't get their ass up off of the couch or off the cell phone.
I made a meme.
And then they want us to believe that their ex was controlling and all these other things. Bull crap. Dude, half of the community that we have here are the very ones that they talk about. And they know the terms, narcissist and psychopath and a sociopath and all this stuff better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. So you got to be very careful, guys. And those are the ones that judge you. because they don't see you doing what you want them to do. But what we are doing when we're up here is saying, what's going to happen when I take that step forward? Because I got to be watching my back. They want to cancel you every way they can. And let me be honest with you, they did a damn good job at it.
They do.
Have they not?
Great
They've
job.
done a damn good job at it. Right now, you are canceled. If you go inside the family courts, you are looked at as guilty from the second that you walked in there if you're a dad. If you go to these organizations and they want to teach you how to fight for father's rights, you're going to be told not to talk about dads. And then you're supposed to get better. Again, Martin Luther King, could you imagine somebody telling him, yeah, we know you're fighting for black people, but don't talk about black people. This movement is ridiculous, guys. 2023 is the year to get real and say enough of the bull. You know what? Let's get some real substance in here. And I would love to get out to the churches, make some of those connections. I'm not saying I'm the perfect guy or I'm the one that needs to be in front of your flag. That's not what I'm doing. That is not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to throw stones at them and say I wouldn't do it myself. I plan on practicing what I preach, and there's probably going to be things I need to clean up. But at the same time, if they would lock arms with us and we can find some common ground, we need you. And this should be inside of your churches already. Okay? We got to address all of the places that it seems like it just came apart. Why can't anybody grab a hold of this message and talk about it without thinking that they're going to get canceled or that their church is going to fall apart or they're not going to get their money or we're not going to get legislation passed? We're not going to get votes. Everybody's been told that if they talk about these issues, it's going to cancel them in every way.
Yeah, that's what happens. I don't know why. I just keep thinking again. I know this is not the same thing, but I keep thinking of when I watched Schindler's List last night. You know, as things, and again, I know it's not a one-to-one, but you know, at first it was, hey, we're going to do this with you, and then hey, we're going to move you here, and hey, we're not going to let you have businesses, and hey, and it just kept going on, and it had an unfortunate end. I mean, analogizing again, not the same level. We're in there. We've remained silent. We've tried to, we've been pacified. We've been told, oh, just accept it, just whatever. And then now we're being told to shut up and cancel. And if anyone doesn't believe that, they need to look at your history. And I mean, the last, 10, 20 years of history of what's been happening. And you have to see what's been happening. And now is the time to say, we're not going to take it. We're going to start making changes. And everyone here can do something. Each one of you can reach out. We've heard ideas. Get to the churches. Get to small businesses. The John Mast documentary. I don't know why I didn't even think about that at first. See, I'm not perfect. I'm not like I don't have all the. I mean, a great idea came out of this show. Get the John Mast video into your churches or into your businesses or to your friends and have them watch that and get those conversations started. That's how it's going to change.
You got to be open-minded. I guarantee you 3 or 5 years from now when we're doing Dad Talk, I'll look back on this day and say, why'd you say that? If I look back on 2019 when I started this and I had several people that was watching me then, I'll say, why was I saying that? But we learn as we go.
Yeah.
And I'm open to being corrected or to saying, hey, guys, I was wrong. There was one time, and I want to make the community aware of this because this gets used a lot. I have a mentor that has taught me a lot, Dr. Warren Farrell. But let me give you an example. The Boyer crisis. You love that, right? One of the things that went around, 26 out of 27 of the mass shooters came from fatherless homes. Dude, I used to say that everywhere, and I had got it from him.
Right.
Well, I didn't know until I was at a conference trying to talk to one of these researchers and stuff. And I was like, yeah, did you know 26 out of 27 of the mass shooters came from fatherless homes? He's like, that's not true. And I was like, yes, it is. He was like, what are you basing that off of? I was like, Warren Farrell. And so he starts breaking down the research, and man, I was so mad. Like, you're talking about my buddy. You're talking about something I've been telling my people. And then I get a call and I talk to Warren. He's like, Eric, that's not true. And he was like, I was on Fox News. I gave all the statistics. That was the one that was wrong. And that's what they based my whole interview off of.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, now I have a responsibility to say, you guys, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. It was still an overwhelming amount of those shooters came from fatherless homes. Was it 26 out of 27? No. But see, there are some of the ways that you got to be very careful. And this could be a whole series of subjects itself. All these different statistics that our community throws out with no sources. One thing I want to say is if you throw out some statistics, you better know the source, because they'll throw that fact checker on you. And if you ever do get to a person that you can make a difference with, they're going to want to know that source, because they don't just take it face value, right? Just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. Do you want people to believe your ex because she says it? Or do you want them to get the proof behind it? It's the same thing with our community. We've got to be able to show the source and the truth behind it. And so if we're going to be on the screen and we're going to be telling our advocates this, Dwayne, we have a very big responsibility to make sure that we are correctable as well.
Right.
Well, we're just up here doing the best that we can, dude.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information. There's so many different angles, and you're getting emails and texts. And I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much you can do. One statistic, I'm glad you brought it up, because I got into a discussion with a lady that's very much against what we have to say. And I stated the actual statistics and the data, but she wanted to say it wasn't from the CDC and all that. But there was the thing that we've said a number of times of who commits domestic violence more, and we say women commit domestic violence more than men. When you look at the actual CDC data from that 2015 survey, it's actually, that number is for physical hitting and punching and scratching for a 12-month period, from that last 12-month period, not since the dawn of time. And it doesn't include I'm trying to say, I don't want to use the word because that'll get you canceled, but unreceived advances of the physical nature. I'm trying to figure out a better way to say that. But and again, if anyone,
you're picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah. But, and when I've talked about, that's what I've always, when I use that statistic, that I talk about in that 12-year or 12-month period and all that, the lifetime actually is a little bit higher for men and women. And I know we're trying to say, we're trying to give it happens to men a lot, but when people say, women commit domestic violence more than men, that is a subset of data. Because again, I think it's safe to say that men commit that unwanted attention penetration item. And it's funny because even the statistics, they use some funny language, because when they talk about that, the R word, they say it's
Thank you, Tom.
penetration. The snuggle struggle. He must be a better Bachelor watcher, which I highly recommend. The snuggle struggle. Yes, the Better Bachelor uses that one all the time. I love that one, the snuggle struggle. Well, I was going to say, but yeah, to your point though, Eric, we instead of someone telling us something and going, oh, this is the gospel, go back and research it. We try to, as far as the information, on the Pissed Off Parent website and on Dad Talk Today and we try to list those sources, but it's always important to go back, because as you pointed out, the ex says, oh, my ex-husband's abusive, or blah, blah, blah. You know what? Let's red pill this and look back. That's part of being red pill, is you look at.
Well, can we red pill some more? And we're going to get into some unpopular conversation. You guys say you want preaching and you want the truth. I want you, when we go for these statistics, when we have to cite the source and look at what the source is, how many of them have been red pilled or that will present the facts? I remember there was one study that was done at Harvard for domestic violence that showed, I think it was 70% of the time, women are initiating the divorce.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. But they did this study, and it was overwhelmingly showing that it was kind of 50-50, but women initiated it more, and it was deleted 4 days later. All right, now you can re-access that. It's still on the internet, but why would they want that to disappear? I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, guys. It costs money in order to be able to do the research. And so I was talking to Dr. McKenzie. His field is in research. This guy knows how to do research, and he also knows the BS that they talk about. Yesterday and the day before, me and him had a long conversation offline about how we need to get research that nobody else is going into. And he was like, Eric, you know that ice cream creates murder? And I kind of already knew in my head where he was going when he said that, but it sounded so ridiculous, right? And I was like, yeah. I was like, so tell me how that is. He's like, well, when is ice cream ate the most? Summertime. When does most killings happen? Summertime. So I can write this research and show how ice cream and murder is connected. And that's what goes on in a lot of this research. A lot of times that you can do this, even though there's loopholes, and then you can say this, if they get it out there, people will quote it, just like I was quoting 26 out of 27 in the mass shooters. If people see it, they take it as gospel, not realizing where did those statistics come from? What are the sources? However, Brooks knows how to do the research in a way that takes away the arguments and bases everything on facts. His way of doing research, guys, he was telling me and Dwayne about this the other day. His duty is to disprove what he's trying to say, not prove it.
That's the way it's
Every way that you can disprove. That way, any arguments can't be made against it. And if it doesn't favor you, that's okay. But we got a responsibility to tell the truth. Well, what is it going to take for us to get that type of research? Right now, there is an overwhelming need for research on custody exchange murders. Nobody is doing it. And people have came to me asking about it. I don't have it. I know people that can get it. But guess what that's going to cost? You're going to have to do surveys, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time into this. But we've got a gift from God sitting right here in this community that's been on this show this past week that could do that research if he had the money and the funding. So imagine if you want to get some statistics on false allegations, how many people go through false allegations of sexual assault, how many people are falsely accused of domestic violence. They're going to talk about domestic violence, but they're not going to talk about false allegations. Well, our community could if we had the funding and we could get the right people in there to show what is the real problem. How much is this happening to? Because the other side of that coin is the kids that this is happening to. I want to fight for them. I want to fight for both sides of this aisle, because the ones that make false allegations are the ones that's taking away the voices from the kids that it is happening to. And we need the right research and statistics to find out what is the overall problem, put the spotlight on it so that we can end it for everybody, because these are the things that is tearing apart the nuclear family. And it's guess who benefits in all this? There's one person that always gets hurt, which is the kid, but there is one person that always profits, because sometimes moms can face it too. So it's not always moms, but the family courts win every single time they have a case. They win every single time. So getting research that isn't government funded to make sure that government funding still keeps coming in is where we need to be as a movement, and we need to organize. We need some of that research. That way we can then say, guys, here's the source. Here's how it was gathered. Here's your statistics. Now use it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get that until this movement gets their feet in the place where it needs to be, walking down that trail to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need to think strategically. We need to, take the appropriate steps to get there. One of the commenters mentioned government grants. Haha, fat chance. They're not.
No, dude. They're all VAWA. They're all Violence Against Women Act.
Yeah, that's not which our current president started, and I believe re-upped for the next year or two. I don't know. That's probably a whole other topic that
I can't preach no more today.
I'll get.
Don't get me started on him.
I'll
find
man. Something. Come on, man.
Come on.
Talking about ice.
Come on, man.
But yeah, I mean, the importance of, again, this is where the education and talking about, the church's failing fathers, or I'm sorry, our church's failing fathers, or the failing families, even in the church. I mean, hopefully, it's kind of tying that around is that you're doing if you go to church or you spend time there, that you're studying and researching and learning on your own. I mean, your pastor has a primary duty to, but you should be learning it as well, and you need to be able to ask questions and challenge in the proper way things that you're being taught. That's how you get smart, and don't fall for the Dunning-Kruger curve if you haven't, or the effect, and that's something you want to study, because the Dunning-Kruger effect, just really broadly explained, is one, if you don't know anything, you're at this point down here, and then you learn a little bit about it, and then you're way up here. You think you know a lot, but you don't. And then as time goes on, you figure out how much you don't know. It's kind of like martial arts. I don't know if you've been in martial arts. People think the first degree black belt is, once you've got that, you're karate man. Well, once you get your black belt, at least your first one, you realize how much you don't know. I mean, when you're an orange belt, like the second or third belt in, you think that you can beat everybody in the world, and then you fight a green belt, blue belt, And you
I'm gonna
find out
make
you
somebody
can't.
mad. And then once you get your third degree black belt in Taekwondo, you realize you should have went for jujitsu.
Yeah, that was
Dude,
Hoist
UFC
Gracie.
really put a spotlight on that one.
Yeah, well, Hoist Gracie. I mean, he's the guy that walked into these kind of the beginning mixed martial arts thing that were all karate and those forms, and really turned it on its head. And because he was able to do submissions and that those type of things and take these guys out, and they're like, "What the heck is going on?" I mean, he turned the whole love Hoist Gracie. Yeah, he turned the whole thing on its head, martial art wise. But yeah, he made he made all these people realize that they don't know as much as they think they did.
Dude, I knew this one was going to get brought up. I guess we
Uh-oh.
need to do a show on this. Tom Buddy Fitzpatrick. Should we all
Oh yeah,
identify as women? Ricardo
the
Rampone.
guy.
Father legally changes gender to female in attempt to gain custody of his kids. I'm also a mom. Can you believe this? Unfortunately,
It
I
happened.
understand it. I
Yeah,
understand
Ecuador.
why they're doing it. You want to know why? Because they can't push back at him now. It was the one card that a father could use. And now it's like, okay, challenge me. And they're so upset, but they have to act accordingly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
You know,
can tell
that's the
they're
crazy
mad.
thing about it. I'm upset because I think he's using this as, but there's people that do it. So we have to act accordingly. Now, are you going to treat him as a father? Or I'm curious to know, is there going to be some different results in this dad's case now that he says he's a mom?
Right. I mean, there. Yeah. I can't imagine there being a difference because looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and they've already. I mean, just in what little I've read, they have investigated this guy. They've been all over his Facebook feed, and he's like, and again, it's blue hairs that are doing it. He's a conservative. He's this. He quotes the Bible. He's faking it. He's and they're of course trying to discredit him because
Why don't they do that to anybody else that does it? If you did that,
It
you
is
would be
weird.
sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, transist, or I don't know all the words.
Troglodyte.
You'd be all that. But now
Yeah.
that this father is saying that they can do all this, could he not sue for discrimination for them challenging him?
Interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that.
Could you
worked out.
imagine? Could you imagine with somebody's flipping the tables over? Somebody flipping the tables over.
We've been talking about people that have been facing these court battles. We had been joking about that for years. Like, man, someone needs to pull a Mrs. Doubtfire or something like that and do this.
Somebody actually did it.
Some guy did. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that case finishes up. But it's I would invite everyone to read about it. It's very interesting. He got tired.
I mean, if it works well for the guy,
Oh, you're gonna set a precedent.
could you imagine?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, it was funny. They're
Gonna try to change fathers' rights really quick when all of you guys go and start doing that.
Yeah, maybe it's time to do that, and we'll be all indistinguishable. And every 30
Well,
days,
If
we'll get
I
our
think
cramps.
that I should have equal custody to my kid and I can take care of them, I can provide for them, and I can do everything, does that mean I identify as the other side? Because obviously fathers aren't supposed to be able to do that.
Right? Yeah. I
Mm.
don't know.
I mean,
They-
the guy, I don't
they
know.
had
That's
a-
your definition, not his. I guarantee you, if you gave the guy 50-50 custody and just let him be a dad, maybe none of that would be going on. But now it's up to you to disprove it. Now, how do you disprove it?
Yeah, because I believe
don't
he
use genitals.
identifies.
You can't
Yeah.
use genitals.
You can't use biology. You can't use all the things that they've. It is funny because this guy has turned every argument on its ear. I mean, he has flipped the table, as it were,
He did.
on all their because they got nothing. That's what's funny about a lot of these arguments, and that's why it's so important to be educated. Because I'm sure someone saw that and went, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." It's like, no, the guy thought about it and went, "If I do this, they've already made all these arguments." About how you've got to believe all women, you've got to do this and identify as a blah blah blah. They can't say anything against it. I don't know. I thought I don't know why I thought about a story I'd read a while back on a young lady that she wanted to see just how good it was to live in a man's world. So she identified as a man, physically changed, altered her features and all that stuff. And after I think 3 years, I think it was 3 years, she ended up committing suicide because she couldn't handle the pressure. So, for anyone that wants to identify the other way,
Dude. Todd
yeah.
Ashley, He said, "How do we get dead broke fathers to take off work, pay court costs, monthly bills, and have anything left when you do see your kid?" That's a real thing. And then they try to call you in Disneyland, Dad, when you try to do some of this because you want your kid to have some memories with you. You're not getting to spend a long time with them. So I want to take you somewhere. I want to do something special. They attack everything you do and they don't realize. I mean, here you go. You're taking my time. Christmas, dude. Like these guys barely have enough to live off of. But then if you don't buy enough for Christmas, it looks like one parent loves them more. And she bought that Christmas with your money.
Yeah. Take your name off it and put theirs on it. Oh,
I mean, dude, there was something else I had saw earlier. I got to go back to some of these comments. Man, we got a lot of comments coming in today.
Yeah, keep them coming.
I'm glad you are here at the Church of Dad Talk. Pass that offering plate, Dwayne. Get them stars. I'm just kidding.
Get the
guys.
stars. Get a star party.
I'm just kidding, guys. Look, man, I'm never going to say if you're here, this is what I wish I would have had when I was going through it. That's it, dude, because it felt like there was nothing there. Now, should there be more? Should you be able to come in here and get some pro se help? Have a listening ear? Like, dude, we've got suicide hotlines, but where's the hotline where these guys can just call in and say, man, I feel like I'm going crazy. Can I have somebody to talk to? I mean, there's so many different things we could be giving to our guys, but they don't have it. This is somewhat your hotline. I wish I could sit there and talk to everybody about their case, dude. I can't put nothing on my Facebook without somebody showing up. Eric, I got a message for you in the inbox. You know, like, and it's all in the comments. Yeah. And it's like, dude, we can only do so much, but this is what I wish I would have had is this is your hour. This is with 3 hours now that you can come in here and say, this is what's going on. But at the same time, don't just become the person that is in the comments. Like, we need you here forming something. Max, I don't know if you're still here, Max, but I think God sent you here this morning because I said, I want you to get out there and talk to the veterans. Can some of you veterans start forming a group and let's get a veterans arm of Dad Talk in here? If we can get some of our vets in here, we can get some change because they know what it's like to go to war. And let me tell you something, when we fight for fathers' rights, it's going to be a war. I did a post the other day talking about grandmas. I said, how many grandmas in here seeing their sons going through that battle? And I had tons of them get down there. Now, can you imagine when those grandmas go in front of the legislation? What I would suggest is some of you guys step back because it's going to be hard for you to detach from the emotion and they're not going to pass it for your case anyway. But if grandma gets up there and talks about the fight that you had, it will be taken in a different way. Where's your moms at, guys? I want them in here and tell them to form their own group. The grandmas at Dad Talk so that we can pull upon them too. We need the grandpas. We need the aunts. We need the uncles. There's all these little sub outlets that we need to start forming. And it's really not that hard. Like I am honored and I'm pleased that you're coming in here and something that we're doing is making a difference with you, but let's get the action.
Yeah.
A little less talk and a lot more action. You ever heard that one?
I have had to listen to that song. Yes. I'm sorry. I got the honor to listen to that. Sorry.
You're in Texas. You've had to hear it. I'm going through the big D and don't mean Dallas. I can't believe what the judge had to tell us.
All I got the Jeep, live in Texas.
You got the 2-bedroom mortgages due something palace.
Well, it's whenever I'm driving, somehow, and she's not bad with it, but every once in a while she'll reach over, hey, your radio's messed up, and change the radio station to something. And actually, what I do, I get in there and I sense the mood, so I'll switch it over to country too.
So do you dance to the country? Is that how you get in the
funny
mood?
Story? And Brandy is going to kill me here. So
say the horse, ride cowboy.
That's a good one. So actually, it was funny. Our wedding song was "I Don't Dance," and I can't remember the guy's name. I thought I could. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But there's a funny story. We were at a Hard Eights, and a country song. I don't think it wasn't that one, but it was a different country song came on, and I approached my lovely bride to dance with her. I was coming out of my shell, dancing with her in public in the middle of a Hard Eights, and she dissed me. She was
what?
She said, yeah, Lee Bryce, yeah. She she's gonna kill me because she hates when I bring this up, but she said she was looking at something else, or probably another hot guy, but she was doing something else and she didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I'm like, how could you not? I mean, I'm standing up, my hand is down towards her to take her by the hand and to show her the romantic fun side of me. And she just, I still suffer. I still suffer from that. So now every time we're out and music comes on, she looks. I'm like, no, I ain't doing it.
So are you damaged? You don't feel like you can do it anymore?
I can't do it anymore. I am
Oh
damaged.
no, dude, you can't be that way. You gotta get back in there. Keep your head in the game.
I just, the hurt is just too much. I just can't do it anymore. I remember one time, God, I went with her to line dancing. Don't get it. And
You can't do it, dude.
well, I've done it. I've done
Yeah.
the circle down in Dallas. There's this racetracky looking thing where people get up and they dance in a big circle. I don't know what that is. I know it sounds dorky me saying this. She's on there. Oh, that's his version.
Oh, that's his version. I knew it. I knew
There's
it.
three
Trust me,
sides to every
Brandy. I knew
story.
it when I was listening to it too. I did.
But she has to admit, I was a good sport. We went to and I don't like country music at all. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Whatever. But we were there, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out the beat and all that because I'm a scientific-ish guy, and so I'm trying to look for patterns and all that, and I couldn't do it. But she has to admit, I took her on the floor a couple times and did my best. That's all she can expect.
Dude. So when I was talking about we got a responsibility, like if we do something wrong and we got to say something, and if our guys are reaching out, we want to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, right? And sometimes that's not so easy. It's easy for us to just get in here. My ex did this, and then this sucks. Family court's ruined. Raw. They took her jibs. I don't know. You ever seen that? Anyway. But there was a comment that I saw, and I wanted to touch on this from Pasquale. And dude, thank you. He's been showing up every day.
Yeah.
Pasquale. He said, they do not want you to say anything. I tried to red pill my lawyer. He said, don't talk about this stuff in court. You'll sound like a conspiracy theorist. This is one time I'm going to tell you that your lawyer is telling you the truth. The last thing you want to do is to try to bring this up in court because they will look at you like you are crazy, brother. Yeah. Look. Do I believe that the court knows a lot of this? Yes, but you got to understand too, when we talk about this Duluth model and this ideology that the family court was based upon, the Violence Against Women's Act, they were taught this against you. So trying to teach them the red pill while you're in that court case probably ain't going to happen. That's been ingrained in them for years. Many of those attorneys, those judges, they were taught that, and that's going to turn them against you quicker than anything, right? I mean, I have a hard time promoting family court as is. But trying to go in there and say what we're doing right now goes against everything that they stand for. That's their jobs. That's their careers. And you're basically trying to tell them that everything they're saying is wrong. Don't do that. I'm not saying you're going to get good results if you don't, but I know you're not if you do.
Yeah, you might want to have a good strategy for presenting a softer, more palatable red pill. But yeah, these judges think they are God in the courtroom. They, what they say goes. I mean, when I was in divorce court, my judge laughed at me when I talked about the importance of family. That should tell you everything you need to know about family court. You going in there and dropping that knowledge, which they already know, by the way. They do. Again, yeah, they know this data. There's no getting around that. They know all the facts and figures. They're worried about their retirement plan. They're worried about the latest money they're going to get from the attorneys and all that other nonsense. You going in there and telling God, little G, how things should run in their courtroom, it won't work out well.
Talking about the courtroom, Tom Shaw said, I've tried sharing the red pill to some churchy people, and they call it a conspiracy like the court does. Guys, most people, when they hear you talking about family court, Title 4D and all this stuff, they think you are absolute nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one thing I used to get judged on by the community all the time. Like when I would interview politicians and different people, did you tell them about Title 4D? Did you tell them about this? Did you tell them about this? No, I didn't. Because I was having a hard enough time getting them to listen to what I was doing. But I found a way that I could get their attention that hadn't been done before. I mean, let me ask you a question, Dwayne. I mean, if there was, please let me know about it. Before Dad Talk started, sitting down with these politicians and turning on that camera, how many times did you see them talking about family law on the screen for everybody to see it? I saw pictures, but I didn't see conversations.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw.
And it's like video. It's like video, or it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Cardboard
anybody
cutout.
can get a picture, but we had that camera on and there was conversations. I wanted to lead them into it. And I found there was times when I could tell somebody was getting really angry about the subject and they
Mhm.
understood what I was saying, that we
Yeah.
got deeper into it. And then there was other
Yeah.
times that they've been so blue pilled, it's been so entrenched in their head that there was not going to be any one conversation to make somebody completely flip.
Oh yeah.
That's
Throw it in
not
the
how
shoe.
this works, guys.
it in
It's
the
just
shoe.
not how it works. So you got to learn how to have these conversations with people. And so your congregation and these different people that have been through this, the one thing that we could do, and as we was talking about yesterday, is some media like I Stand with John. Tell them to watch I Stand with John. I got some statistics and stuff in there, but I've even talked to psychologists that said that was what it was needed because we did one story and it went all the way through. We didn't try to bore you with nothing but statistics. And then that story shows you the challenges that this dad went through, but it also shows you John wasn't accused of any allegations until he filed for divorce, any sexual allegations. He was
Right.
accused of a physical allegation, had to plead guilty because the judge wouldn't look at evidence. So he filed for divorce. And now here comes sexual allegations. And we built the story to show you what
Right.
would be the motives behind this. And when you show them these stories, and it's kind of in the form of a media or entertainment, you might be able to reach people that if you go and quote all this stuff, they're
Yeah.
just going to be looking at you like, you're nuts, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
Brandy.
And I want to make more of those. I want to make more of those.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that because I know the impact that it has. You know, dude, I reached out to one of my representatives here in Georgia.
Mhm.
And about a month later, he called me and he said, I got your message. And he said, but let me tell you what I did. He said, I went and watched all of your stuff. And then he said, I just got through watching I
Wow.
Stand with John and I was crying. And he said, first off, I want to apologize. I'm so sorry. This is what's going on. But I empathize with you. I am trying to do the right thing, but they're blocking me at every path. And it was one of the most real conversations I'd ever had because it opened my mind to some of the other stuff that's going on. He said, Eric, you're going to have these people that are going to say they'll do this, they'll do this. But what it really is they're all buddies with each other. And that when one sponsors it, he'll do it and he's going to fight for you because he wants to make you think that he's doing this. But up in that upper chamber, he's got his buddy up there that he's already told, make sure that doesn't go anywhere. But we've got to make them think that we're doing the right thing. But if this goes somewhere, it's going to kill our stuff. And this was a representative that was having this conversation with me, but he watched all of I Stand with John first. Dude, that was powerful for me. I had a lot of respect for this guy because I knew like he took the time out to understand. That was very, very rare, guys, that somebody is going to do that. But you can do this with other people. Like I was telling you, I met somebody last year. I won't say their name, but hardcore feminist, hardcore leftist, hardcore feminist. Men are bad, women are good type thing. And they wanted to get this conversation with me because they was ready to prove me wrong. And I let them say all this stuff. And then I just said, will you do me a favor? Because I knew I was going to see him the next day. I was like, will you watch The Red Pill later on tonight? And then let's continue the conversation tomorrow. Yes. Dude, the next day, it was like a completely different person. That was one of the situations where it turned around and they was like, there was all this stuff that I didn't know because, you know, she went in with that feminist narrative, watched another feminist that went in with that narrative and then got to see it turn around. And then we had that conversation. Next thing you know, they're showing up to Dad Talk events. How can I volunteer for you?
Yeah. Well, some of it is the message. Some of it is how you present it. I do more of the stone in the shoe. You know, I kind of figure out that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to give them something to think about and they walk away. And as you were talking before, you're like, when you go in there and you say, hey, do you know about Title 4D and they're raping or they're snuggle struggling children and they're doing that? You sound like a complete nut job. You may be 110% right. You sound like a nut job. And you have to think, you have to find people where they're at. I mean, like talking about, you know, my wife, Brandy, and she unfortunately has to live with me and listen to a lot of this stuff. She likes a lot of it, but like the facts and figures and the data.
Brandy?
Yeah, I don't know how she does it either. It must be all this and all that, all my
It's the dancing. You
It's
must be a really good dancer.
I can cut a rug, let me tell you. But you know, she's like the facts and figures. I mean, she's told me a million times, and I'm like, no, the facts and figures. But she's like, no, you bore the snot out of me talking about data and this figure. She goes to sleep. She wants to hear the story. She wants to hear, you know, more of the emotional stuff, and then sprinkling in pieces. So, like when you go to talk to someone and the topic comes up, go, hey, did you know that 80% or that there was a disproportionate number of females that have custody over men, or find a way to go about that. May not be the best thing, but or the best way of doing it, but no going there going, Title 4D and Title 4E, steals children and kills them and all that stuff. You've got to find a way to make the message palatable. You got to find out, know thy audience, as they used to tell us in college. Find out, and like you had that situation with that the grandfather, that legislator that was a grandfather.
Oh, yeah, dude. Well, and here's the thing, dude. If you didn't have the data and the research and the videos and stuff out there already to make your point, then I could understand you doing some of this. But just show people's words and their actions, and it'll speak for itself. Mm-hmm. It's out there. The general public has just really never gotten to see it. And I'll say another thing. Like let's bring Brandy and my wife into this, okay? Dude, when you get into this and you got somebody that supports you, mm-hmm. you don't want to inundate them with this battle because you've got it. That's why me and Dwayne are on here for 3 hours right now, because we're getting to get it out of us. There is going to be times they want to know what's going on, but they don't want to sit there and hear about this all the time. And I don't blame them for that. Yeah. And that's why, every once in a while I'll be ready to go do something and Tina will be like, I didn't know you was doing that. And I was like, oh, you want me to tell you about it? I'll tell her about it for a second. And she's like, okay. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like there's only so much she can take of it, but I've learned.
Did Dwayne call you
early on? It was like, everything you talk about is dad talk. I'm like, I'm sorry. I get so zoned in it, man. But make sure you're doing it, because there is people that match your passion. That's why I love having stuff like my buddy on here right now, dude. He matches the passion. We're passionate behind these subjects, and we're going to get it out. Thank you to the ladies for putting up with us. And you know what? What does she say? Brandy. She said, that's why I love this show. You guys tell it how it is, sprinkle in facts and data while also making us laugh. This topic can be so sad. We need some light spread over it too. That's why you guys are the perfect balance. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Now I'm trying to think of something funny to say. Maybe we should just get Dwayne to dance. He says it's good.
I can cut a rug when I have to.
There was times, dude, that I got lost in it, like especially like after John got killed. I went to a place that I didn't even recognize, guys. I got so consumed. Like, I remember reading about, what was the guy? Oh man, I can see his face. Heath Ledger. They said Heath Ledger got stuck in that role playing Joker for Batman, right? Yeah. And when you're trying to tell these stories, and sometimes the actors get consumed by the character. When I was in I Stand With John, and I was trying to think like, John, I want you to kind of channel through me and tell me what you want me to do, right?
Right.
I got so consumed in that story, dude. It just stuck to me, and I couldn't separate from it. When that documentary got finished, after we got finished editing it, I was lost, man. I couldn't believe it was over, because we had put so much time into it. Yeah. But it was just like, oh, I'm still ready to go. But we don't have a court date. We don't have an update. So for the past 2 years, we're just sitting there ready to jump at any moment, and we're having to wait. And so we've got other stories that we need to get out there. And I understand that, like, people are here because of the battles. They want them to know, like, look at what I went through.
Right.
There are some of these stories, guys, like, unfortunately, the media has sensationalized it so much. There's certain stories that people are going to listen to. And you guys with the, the divorce, the alienation, some of that stuff, it's just another guy on the block. You know what I mean? And I hate that, because it seems like you're cherry picking stories, and that's not it. But if you want to know how bad this can get, there was a 14-year-old boy dying of cancer, and the dad's getting 1 hour a day. At first, wasn't even going to get to see him because it fell under mom's vacation time with custody. Now let's go to John Mass, killed at the custody exchange. Same thing with Chad Reed. Same thing with Justin Goolsby. The case where the dad is being blocked from seeing his daughter in a casket that died of cancer. These are the things that make even the person that can have the coldest heart and blue-pilled say, oh my God, what's going on?
Right.
And there's certain cases that have that power. And these are some of the cases, and we need to have that reputable media that we can show them in a fashion that they will be able to consume. And that's going to take a lot of work. I mean, dude, I stand with John, even though
Mhm.
like I'm proud of it, but it took a whole year of our lives because it
Yeah.
was me and Robert working on that thing
One
a whole year
story.
of our lives. We need one of those stories going out every single day. Unfortunately, well, we
Yeah, there
really
is.
do, because what you could see happening, I've turned down network offers, dude, because if we go to a network and then they start helping us with some of this, then my ability to come on here and be real with you guys and say what needs to be
Gone.
said gets stripped away from us. You understand? So
Yeah.
there's an advantage and a disadvantage to everything that goes out there. I got a 500,000 following. A network would pick us up in a heartbeat. I get better ratings than a lot. You know, the majority of those podcasts are out there, but I don't want that, because there are certain things that are going to need to be said, and the world, I don't know, is ready to hear it yet, Dwayne.
No.
I don't,
No, a
because
lot
when
of
they
people are
first
blue
hear these
bills.
cases, they think that we're full of crap.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I see comments all the time. Oh, this just happens once or twice, and I mean, the CDC data, the HHS data is all out there. I mean, it's information known. And you still have people that believe that we have equality and there's a wage gap and all these different things that should be common knowledge. But the world is not ready. If you've watched The Matrix, this is that perfect time when Morbius was counseling Neo that. The world does not want to be unplugged. They have an idea of how the world should work, and you can't have people. They don't want people going in there and disrupting it. That's
When you start going through this, kids being taken away, your resources, everything, your retirement, savings,
mhm.
it becomes the only thing that's on your mind, because how am I going to survive?
Yeah.
And I want my family. So you get stuck in that. And I think people, they're ready. The world needs to see what I'm going through. But the reality is, guys, if you're alive and you're breathing on this earth, we are all facing challenges. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we can get so caught up in our own stories that we're focusing so much on that we're not looking at everybody else. There's something they're going through. It might not be a family law battle, but I can guarantee there's challenges that they're going through in their life too.
I have challenges now. Yeah.
I do too,
You do
outside
too.
of family law, and we're
Yeah.
going to have them every single day. This morning, I didn't have any toilet paper. I'm just kidding.
Oh man.
That is one of the
That's
worst
scary.
challenges to have.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It is
Kids.
one of the worst challenges, especially when nobody's home. There's nobody to scream to.
You the
Hey!
waddle. You the penguin waddle. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't like my kids, because the bathrooms and stuff, and you go, oh, and I don't know it's sheer sorry, I'm going on a rant here. The sheer coincidence of me walking in there and there being no toilet paper not even spare a square. I mean, the sheer coincidence of that is impossible, but it's only when the kids are there that happens. Then you open up the little pantry door to get the 8-pack that you bought last week, and it's all gone, and you got to do the penguin waddle.
Oh,
God,
you know what? That's
kids.
why we should have bidets.
I have a
I would
bidet.
actually be a fan of
Those
that.
are awesome. Yeah, bidets
I
are
would
awesome.
be a fan of. I've never used one,
You
but
can get one
I would have to think that it's got to be more clean.
Yeah. Oh,
In
yeah.
that sense, I would think it's got to be more clean, but we have a stereotype with that.
Oh, no.
Look, you got to save a lot of money with it too.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
Butt tape is not cheap.
$30 on Amazon. You can get a cold water one, decent one. They're about $30, and you'll make your money. But let me tell you, that water stream hits. It hits. I don't know what computer technology they use, but every time I'm
But
quoting
Dwayne,
Ron
you won't be
Weiss.
able to have that little blue disc in your water, because if you got that, then you'll end up with blue balls.
Yeah, especially if you move back too far. But yeah, the dogs use it as a drinking fountain. Everybody wins. I mean, it's just
Yeah, there you go, man. There you go. Okay, now is the point in time where we just go off on random subjects and we're having fun with it. But I appreciated it, guys, and I love you and thank you for being here. Any of the churches that see this, look, don't take any offense to what we're saying. If anything, we're saying we're not trying to throw stones at you. We're not trying to break down your buildings. We're saying, please open the doors and listen to what these guys are going through. This is a cry for help. And if they can't come to you for help, where do you expect them to go? You want them to go to the government? You wanted them to go to these Christian counselor centers that more divorces are happening out of than anywhere? Is that really, you keep wanting to turn your flock away? Didn't God put you in there as a pastor to lead? and you don't know what they're going through, what does that say about you as a leader and as a pastor? What does it say about how you're leading in your home?
Yeah.
Like, you need to listen to these guys. Fathers are important. You pray to God the Father every night. Can't you talk about the Father in the home? God made these fathers for a reason. And when they try to lead, this is what's happening to them. When they try to lead, and a lot of them are trying to speak God's word, and then they're getting canceled. And then they got somebody over here counter-parenting, and you're making it more welcoming for the new boyfriend than you are the father that's been in your congregation for God knows how long.
You're spitting truth there. Yeah, I mean,
Dude.
the good book says about who, the patriarch, how the house is supposed to be led. You can certainly counsel if there's disagreement between the man and the woman, but at the end of the day, that's where it's at, and that's the pastor's job, is to teach that.
So I'm trying to pass the olive branch at the same time I start getting heated again. So what I'm saying, though, is open those doors, and I think you will see a lot more people acceptable, more people putting into the offering plate and showing up if you actually did something that affected change.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you preach in the word or whatever. It's not, if don't get that wrong. But again, it's not just about doing the King James Version, speaking a language that they understand. Okay. Speaking a language that they understand and what helps them. Because guess what? These parents are raising up the next generation that comes to your church. And if you don't do what's necessary in order to help them lead their kids in the way that they're supposed to, I guarantee you most of those kids, they ain't going to be coming to your church. No, they're going to get indoctrinated, and they're going to get everything else that these single kids are. Look up the fatherless statistics and see how those kids are doing without their daddies. You have a responsibility from the guy upstairs to start doing something about those fatherless statistics, because these are guys that aren't able to lead in their homes. And let me tell you something, every other weekend, a father can't lead his kid every other weekend. You can't do it, Dwayne. No. By the time they get used to knowing who daddy is again, they're going right back out the door.
Yeah.
We can't keep going out every other weekend. You think that's okay? You pastors, dude. Let me pull it out. I got it.
You got it.
We got plenty of them in stock. Plenty of them in stock. And if you know what? Tell your pastors about it. Send them this episode. And if they got some questions, again, like I said, I'd love to speak to you. Yeah, please tell me where I'm wrong. Please.
They need to reach out and at least start the conversation. And I'm hoping that they go, look, it's a topic that we just didn't know how to approach. There's no resource, whatever reasoning they want to give, and then start that conversation. This is how we need to get, divorce care or parenting, in blended families, whatever. That again, the church is supposed to be there for the family, and they're ignoring such a large area that impacts, again, 50% of all marriages end in divorce, 75% of all children are born out of wedlock. All these things are there. That this is something that should be right for the church to handle, but I guess it's not sexy enough for them. I don't know.
Those 500,000 people that's following those Facebook, they should be able to come to you before they come here.
Yeah. Ooh.
There you go. I'll say it that way. Why are they coming here?
Yeah.
There's something you're not doing. There's something you're not saying.
Well, when you talk about outreach and getting that out there, they're coming here as opposed to going to church. They're getting fed here as opposed to there. And then by the same token, the folks that are on here, the 500,000 followers, they need to take this and go to their church and go, why aren't you doing this? And let's get something in place to help these families out.
Dude, I'm being honest. They should be able to turn to you, but they can't because they're afraid that you're going to turn their back on them. You're going to let Mighty Mouse come and sit on the pew, and you're going to make him feel comfortable so that you can keep Miss Princess there, rather than trying to help out this family, dude. Keeping the family together. That was God's vision.
Yeah.
Keeping that family together. Yes, we got to talk about 50-50 and all this other stuff, because divorce is going to happen no matter what. But how many marriages could be saved, Dwayne, where there has been a lack of communication? And, social media really plays into this, because what do people do? I hate this part about social media, and it's easy to do, especially when you're in your feels, but you don't agree with your partner and you take off to Facebook. Look, my ex or my current spouse says this is the way I'm supposed to do it. How do you guys feel about it? And I don't care what the view is, you're going to have somebody that supports, and then you're going to have somebody that supports the other side. And they think because they've got all these armchair quarterbacks on social media that they just solved a problem and made a point with their partner. Look, man, you know how you make a point with your partner? You sit down and talk to them. Screw what everybody else thinks. It's between you two, right? Learn how to communicate again. You don't always have to have common ground, but you're married together and you're supposed to find ways to work together, not work against each other. You don't always have to be right. You don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But dude, if you build it together, that you're supposed to, those two are supposed to become one, Dwayne. But they act as two separate entities.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's the problem. We all have our different ways. But I can tell you right now, ladies, these kids need their daddies. And I ain't talking about Mighty Mouse. I'm not talking about the substitute. I'm not talking about the Great Value brand. We're talking about Coca-Cola. We need the real thing. Okay. We need the real thing. That's the one that is going to satisfy this hunger and this need right here. Not that little generic knockoff version that you want to replace in there. Daddies are important. And let me say, mommies are important.
Oh, yeah.
You two together are amazing. Dynamite. Break them apart. You're half of what you could be.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you ain't got both halves in there, they're only getting one side of it. I love it when the ones I raised my son and I didn't have any of these problems. He's just fine. How do you know that?
Yeah.
Is he telling you the problems that he has? How does he know that he's lacking in something? You're all he's ever known. You don't know what he could have been. If you think he's good now, what could he have been if he would have had the other side? You choose to think that it would have been worse because that is confirmation bias for you.
Yeah.
But your son could have actually been much more. And you know what? If you would have kept that example of the nuclear family, then his family is statistically more safe to have a nuclear family too. But if you break that apart, he is statistically more at a disadvantage for his family to break apart. Am I lying, Dwayne, or is that what the statistics say?
That's the hard data. I mean, those are spitting facts. And again, your kids are watching everything you're doing. I mean, again, this is for the non-physical abuse, cheat, and even then, but these kids are watching, and the data is there that when there's a divorce situation, the kids are irreparably damaged. The data is there. You can say, well, not in my situation, which I think is hilarious that people would say that. I mean, because again, we're not talking about one person. Yeah, there's going to be that one story or two stories that the person excelled. But I mean, I look at mine. I mean, I went through a divorce and I primarily raised the boys that I had. They miss out on things. Luckily, I was able to bond with someone that, over time, she has a sense of fashion. I mean, they call her and don't talk to me about fashion stuff or what to wear or haircuts. I mean, there's that. But again, in the nuclear family, hands down, the data is there that that is the best for a child. And splitting up, co-parenting, 2 fit equal parents is the next best thing. And to throw it out there, and no one's going to want to hear this, and I'm sure I'm going to get censored on it. Men only raised homes do a little bit less in certain areas, but the absolute worst place to be is in a single female led home. Hands down. I mean, that and don't get mad at me. The data's there. It's all there.
Boys need that masculinity. They need that push. They need that structure. They need that guy that when the kid thinks they've done all they can do says, no, you can do better. Or that one that thinks, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't know, I won't do it next time. Nope. You're right. You won't do it next time, but there's a consequence this time. Yeah. You know what I mean? That has that structure. They need that. And so does our daughters. Mm-hmm. Our daughters need it just as much. I mean, we're going to get into a controversial one right here, but I want to be as real as I can with you guys. Dana Cornwell. Okay. Yeah, he said, what I've heard is pastors pull back on counseling because legal issues on not reporting things that the legal system say they should. More control on your voice. And that's the problem. Look, Again, we've all got anger. We've all got emotions. We're all living in this world. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. In order to love, there's got to be hurt. Okay. Because the ones you love will sometimes leave either the earth altogether when they die, or they might go on to somebody else. There's going to be pain in order to be pleasure. Okay. And there is going to be those times in the middle of that pain, in the middle of that hurt, that there's going to be thoughts up here that they say, I don't like those thoughts. I don't like what it's saying. And I need somebody to talk to. I wish I had somebody safe that I could talk to that's not going to judge me and that's not going to use this against me in court, because I'm not doing well. Let's be honest. People that are doing well don't need counseling. For the most part, they don't need counseling, but the ones that say, I have an issue and I want to make sure I'm talking to somebody so I'm getting through this because I don't like where my mind's at right now. And that could be a murderer, a rapist. It could be all kinds of different things that want somebody to talk to and say, look, my head is thinking things I shouldn't. And then they come and talk to you. And then this happens. So what happens? These guys end up not talking and they just go and do the things.
Yeah.
That's what happens. Like, I'm not taking it for any of that, but these people need somebody to talk to. If they could have had a conversation and a pastor or somebody could have said, that's not good. Wake up. You know, that's not good. That's why you're here talking to me right now. Right. I want you to talk to me more. Next time that you're having bad thoughts, call me. I want to be here for you. That's not what God intended for you. Instead, if I go and I talk to my pastor, he's going to turn me in. So I'm just going to sit here until I'm ready to explode. And that's what we're seeing. Am I wrong?
That's exactly what we're seeing today. Yeah, I mean, Danny was talking about also the legal issues on not reporting things, and I get that part of it, because if you have the Duggar situation where the one Duggar was accused, well, I think it was found guilty of having inappropriate relationships with other family members that were underage, and the church they kept it all within themselves, and they were going to do the counseling there. They tried to do, I guess, what people are talking about, but they were upset that there were legal issues because the state wasn't involved. I get both sides of it. I think we're talking about more of the husband and wife are having challenges or issues, whatever those are, and they go and sit down with the pastor. I don't think we're talking about the legal area of inappropriate touching children or physical abuse and things like that. I mean, the pastor does have a duty to report certain things. Of course, that opens up its own can of worms. And it's not the perfect system. It's just, if we had more, how many marriages could be saved if the churches got involved more than what's happening now? We're not going to ever have a perfect system.
I said again earlier, I don't condone violence. I don't condone any of that extreme stuff that goes on. Mm-hmm. But let's get into this conversation. When the guy goes through a divorce, he goes to the courts for justice. They take all of his money. They take his kids. And then he's not seeing his kids. His kids are in a house with a new man that they're trying to get to call daddy, getting to see them more than they are him. And he's the one that's funding it. She doesn't even work. She was the one that caused the divorce, and the courts just keep taking up. Then no matter how much he files, no matter how many experts he gets, it seems like he is at a dead end. He can't afford to do anything else but work. And all work gets him is to fund them in doing it. And these guys get messed up here.
And you can't blame them.
Start thinking, no, you cannot blame them for not being able to control those emotions, guys. They need people that they can talk to. And it's because of this system that it's made them feel that way. And if they go and say, hey, I'm not having good thoughts about this, it's going to be used against them. Every way you turn, the system goes against these guys. Let's just be honest. And they have nowhere safe to talk. And when you finally hit that dead end and those emotions take a rise, that's what you're going to be judged off of. Not all the years before that you did the right thing, you did this and you did this. And I just feel so sorry for them. There needs to be something like, look, come and talk to me. Of course, if somebody's talking about touching kids or hurting kids or different stuff like that, that needs to be reported 100%. Right. You're a sick guy. I don't know why you're having thoughts like that in the first place. Right. But for some of these guys that are like, you know what? I don't like Mighty Mouse over there. I kind of want to go punch him in the face. You know what I mean? He's sitting there trying to tell my kid that he's daddy when I'm daddy. You know, I'm sure many of those guys have felt that. I'm sure they have. Am I saying that's getting justified? No, but I know why you're talking like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what's going on up here. He should be able to go and talk to that pastor and say, look, man, this ain't right. You know what? If a judge can get judicial immunity, why can't pastors talk to their flock? At the same time, like I see what you're saying, though. There is definitely going to be need on both sides, but I mean, these guys can't even go to a counselor without thinking, they just get to that place in their head and think there's nothing I can do. There's nothing. This is the only option that I've got. So do I understand why these guys think that violence, the ones that have done everything they can do and nothing else is happening, they end up thinking that kind of stuff. No, I don't justify it. No, I don't one bit whatsoever. But why are they getting there? Because the system is driving them there. Okay. It's what the system has done.
Mm-hmm.
It's why Cash is in jail.
Yeah. I mean, they messed with that guy. I mean, he tried everything. And unfortunately, this is starting to sound eerily similar to another court case that has been in the spotlight today. He's done everything. He's tried to run for a legislative position to try to change the laws. He's fought against the court system. He's done everything he can. And every step of the way, all these forces have pushed against him and destroyed him. And he felt that was the last thing he could do, was potentially allegedly commit violence or to stop the problem. And unfortunately, as we talk about this being carried out, there's another scenario thing that's happening nowadays that's eerily similar. And I would not be shocked.
And that's what dude,
I won't be surprised.
Please, guys, don't do any of that.
No.
You might think that is answer in your situation, and it's not. It's going to end up being used against you, and then you're not going to be able to fight anymore. They're waiting for you to do something like that, because now, and the problem is when these guys do that, they're not going to be able to pay you that child support or Title 4D money anymore. You're going to be funding them inside of a jail. I don't guess they're looking at it that way. But at the same time, like sitting there talking to Glenn Terry, he went through all that crap and told the courts, if you don't go get my son, she's going to kill my son. The attorneys, the judges, the police, nobody listened to the guy. Right. And so listening to him cry that night, again, I don't justify it, but I'm not looking down on the guy. He was like, there was only one thing I could have done, Eric.
Yeah.
What kind of judicial
what
system, do you tell?
Yeah. Well, what kind of judicial system do we have and legislative system that becomes a viable option? You know what? If people don't want that to happen, change the system. Change it to
I'm telling you, my kid is going to get killed, and you don't do anything. And then when his kid gets killed, I'm sorry, brother.
Oh no, they told him the cop. Remember, the cop told him, "Oh, you can't come here. The child belongs to the state now. His dead child."
She said that if he wanted to see the kid, he could go see it in the morgue.
Yeah,
and the system protected that mom every step of the way. And that's why I will unapologetically talk about father's rights. That guy would not have went through that if it was on the other side. And the only reason he was sitting there was because he was a dad. That's how that system played out.
Yeah. And
it systematically tears these men apart. They have nowhere to turn. And that's why I'm so mad about today's subject, the church. The church could be helping. And there's no way they're oblivious to this, guys. There is no way. I can guarantee you there's several of these guys that went to their pastors. They're telling them about this, and they're up in their emotions, and the pastors are not absorbing it in either. They've been blue-pilled. They've got that religious alienation, right? And they think this world is supposed to operate this way, and they're not seeing this. And again, guys, did any of you see it before or pay that much attention to it until you were going through it? I need your help in order to be able to reach the ones on the outside that can come in here and help, that can afford it because they're not in family court and can get us some support behind it. But first, I need to let you know who we are and what we do. And I hope by now, with some of these real conversations that we're having, you're picking up some of the stuff that we're laying down. This is the war that we're gearing up for. Veterans for Dad Talk, grandmas for Dad Talk, grandpas for Dad Talk. I need them all.
Yeah,
we need them all. We need everybody, all hands on deck. Okay. And get in here and turn your pain into purpose. It's one thing to talk about your pain all the time, but it's another thing to get out there and do something about it. You've exhausted the ones that come in here. I have exhausted everything I could do inside the family courts. What did you do in here?
Yeah.
What did you do in here? This is where I need you.
Yeah.
Dude, you can sit there and keep complaining about what they're going to do to you in the family courts and just keep walking in there. Or you can say, I might have to make a little bit of a sacrifice and let's fight it from this angle. Let's fight it from this angle. And that's what we need some of you guys doing. I have a very big problem on people that just, oh, you need to get in there. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. You can have some of the best cases out there, guys, and it is rigged against you. You understand me? We need you here before you go through it. I can't tell you how many people it said, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in family court. What would that have done me if I had done that in advocacy versus going and throwing it away and then not get my kid anyway? That's the reality. And
Yeah.
I know more of those guys than I could count. Could you imagine if we started getting proactive instead of reactive? I need some of these guys getting proactive. And what sucks so bad is men and their egos. That'll never happen to me. That's not going to be my story until it is.
Yeah.
Until it is.
And then you go,
Then you come in here walking in a little Smurf that had that blue pill. Can you hand me the red pill? No, dude, you should have took it when we told you to.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
So get out there and teach people. I'm talking to everyone out there. I mean, use the resources. Again, Pissed Off Parent has quite a bit of stuff on it. Dad Talk Today. Get out there, share this information, share, subscribe, get the algorithm going. Donate. There's Patreon, Dad Talk Today, Venmo. There's other ways to help, and get out there and do it. Have the conversation. Get for the week. Get out there and talk to your pastors, talk to your churches, send them an email. Hey, blah blah blah. Start the
love this.
conversation. What we got
With
here?
your permission, I'll like to stream your lives during the weekend. And is that virtual reality?
Virtual reality. There are channels. Oh, that's another one.
Dude, let's do it. Could you imagine?
They have actually. You can do
grab the glass.
Yeah, actually, Emmanuel. Yeah, I've been doing this for the. Not that I'm complaining, but I haven't had a chance to get in I love VR. I haven't had a chance to get in there, but there are channels you can set up within for the Oculus Quest. And do the big screen. That's it. I was sitting there. I was fumbling for the word. Big screen allows you to set up screenings, and then people join in, and you all in your glasses wherever you're at.
I'll have to shave and get out of my camos before I do that.
That's yeah. Well,
don't want anybody getting caught up in my beard.
Yeah,
I go all up in their face.
It is 3D. You can do all kinds. It's actually a really neat app. A lot of stuff in VR. Yeah, I thought about doing a VR thing, but yeah.
Ricardo, man, I love this. And I'm glad you brought this up because this is the other side of the conversation. He said ex-UFC fighter Cain Velasquez charged with shooting that man accused of molesting his child. Now, he had evidence that this was going on. I don't know that whole story, so I'm going to refrain a little bit on it. But here is a dad that had evidence that this was going on. And dude, if I heard somebody was doing that to my child, nobody was listening, I'm telling you, there's a part of me that feels sorry for Cain. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's the other thing, like, dude, I want to be able to get involved in the advocacy groups that are fighting for these kids too. Unfortunately, a lot of these advocacy and domestic violence organizations are the ones that are protecting the narrative, and they're supposed to be protecting the kids. Right? They know that the false allegations and stuff are going out there because there's more false allegations than there is true ones. I think it's like 80%, if not higher, of TROs end up being found unfounded. I mean, at what point in time do they say, hey, we need to get involved here and make sure that people take this as a more serious problem, not just something I need a TRO. Every divorce is getting a TRO now. That is very common.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It is very common. Dude, when I went through mine, I remember them telling me, you can go fill out a TRO. I had never heard of it before, but that was one of the first solutions that they gave to me. And I'm like, what is going on, dude? Joshua Weeblehouse. So how do we advocate? Everybody's going to have a different way, dude. But I'm telling you, when we tell you guys to like, share, and subscribe, there's your first way.
Advocate.
If you can donate, that helps. That helps us be here on this screen. Yep. That helps us get out there and do more. dude, I'm talking about research. We need documentaries. We need publicists. We need all sorts of different things, dude. There is no limits. And it is very depressing when Brooks is on the screen yesterday talking about just two of the people that was running towards family law. And because the establishment didn't like them, $3.5 million to fight against these guys.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what we could have done with $3.5 million? Dude, I would have gave the biggest black eye to this industry that they had ever seen.
Oh, I'm in the county
I am
that happened.
serious. Like, dude, I know you got, several billions, tens of billions of dollars, but watch what I'll do with this little bit. I'm going to be David looking at Goliath with those little stones in that slingshot and say, ha ha, boom.
Yeah.
Nail him right between the head, dude. We could do it. Because most of those guys aren't using all that money towards keeping it that way. They're putting that in their pockets.
Oh,
and we could do a lot with very little, dude. But when you're speaking for millions of people and getting out, like, dude, I wish I could take everybody on that trip when we went through those 43 states and then when we went to all those political conferences. It was one of those, as you're in the journey and you're trying to make the difference, that you're every place you go, you realize it. This problem is bigger than I ever imagined. I mean, we already know it is, but when you're standing there in person and you're in the middle of the fight, you're hearing the conversations, the excuses, and you're doing this nonstop. The second they hear dad, they don't want to hear anything else that you got to say. And you're there in a different state. God knows where. You don't know what town it is, don't know what day it is, but you're out there just preaching the message. And you're like, this is bigger than anybody on this screen. I'm not going to be able to put it into words how big the fight is.
Yeah, you get deja vu because you're going to all these places and you're like,
oh, dude, it is. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to do, I'm not going to say that we need to go travel all those places again. No, I want to put my attention towards this community and building it right now. So one of the best things that you could do is help us get the word out, invite other people that are going through it, invite your mom and your dad, because your mom and your dad have very strong voices in there. I dare say stronger than you. Because it's not them that's going through the battle, but they're also being alienated from that kid. And when they speak for you, I've watched my son do this. I've watched my son do this. These legislators, a lot of times who might be grandparents themselves, will listen to another grandparent when they won't listen to you, Dad, because they have conditioned people not to listen to you. But there's a strategy. Why hasn't that been implemented a long time ago? Because nobody's done it. Nobody's done it. We haven't been having these conversations. So I'm going to ask you again. Invite a friend, everybody that you know that's going through this. Invite your parents and your siblings and everybody, because people on the outside can speak towards these issues way better than the ones that are in. And that's the problem. We got legislators and stuff that talk about these issues, Dwayne, but they don't get in here until they're the ones that's going through it. And by that time, they lost the credibility. It's self-serving, right? Yeah. Let's get the outside families and people in here, and they can help. They can help. And then we're learning this as we go. I wish I could tell you, I would be a very arrogant son of a bitch if I told you I had all the answers right now. I'm not going to do that, guys. I'm not going to give you false hope. But I do know the first step in this is that awareness and getting us in here. I will say that faithfully. Seeing all the people come together and showing them how big of a group this is. And one of those might be, I want to go overseas. I need to get out there to Australia. I need to get to Scotland and Finland and Canada and all these other places. And I'm going to need some help getting out there, but we're going to turn on the cameras and show them what all we have in common and then grow. That's how you do it. Just like Martin Luther King did, went around doing those marches and stuff. People want to copy that because he did it. We're not in those times anymore. And there could be an advantage to that for us, actually, because we don't have to show up and go and do all that, which is going to take even more resources. But just inviting people here. Watch what happens. Watch what happens when you guys invite people here and then they start showing up. This can be our church. This is the Father's Rights Church right now on Sunday. You guys have been here with us all day long. Get out there. If you are a person that goes to your church, talk to your pastors and say, would you please sit down? I'm going to give you a little bit of information and ask me questions on things that you don't understand. And if I don't have the answers for them, I'll find out and I'll bring it back to you. But just do me a favor. Try to understand what I'm telling you right now and how the church can play into it. How many pastors might actually listen to that? The good ones will. Yeah. The good ones will. And dude, I'll go speak at any church that'll have us.
Yeah. You can, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, your church, your pastor, whoever is there may say, don't want to get involved. At least now you know. And that should help you decide where you should spend your time. But at least have the conversation with them, give them the opportunity, understand from their perspective, get that communication going as only you all can. Because hopefully you have those relationships set up. And then, yeah, ask them, did you know this? Father's Rights Church. Yeah. Maybe another group will have Father's Rights Church.
You've been healed,
You-
my friend Tom Shaw. I've seen it. You're going through a battle in family court. I wish I could do that.
I can heal you. But and then if they ask you a question or they want information, you come back and look for that information and say, yeah, okay, great. You wanted to know what the split is. It's 80-20 nationally. In certain states it's higher. Or I mean, don't go in there with the Title 4D funds. You're going to alienate people. Go in there and start the conversation, see where it goes. And then the other thing is inviting your friend, everyone in there, everyone that your circle of friends, and bring them in here and getting involved. That's the other part of it, because we need numbers. That is, in my opinion,
well, and we talk about that every episode too. And
do.
So eventually we're going to have to get on some other topics outside of family court, because some people might not understand all of this, but they understand things, that pertain to dads, talking about the men's prostrate exams, nostalgia. There's all these other things that we can talk about that will bring people in. And then once they get in here, when we have these conversations, we can't do every episode that you got to get this person and you got to do this, because when they get here, we also got to look, dude. I mean, we've got to give them something that they relate to as well. Yeah. It's you're asking people on the outside to come in here to understand something they might not understand. And I think in order to do that, we need something that they relate to as well, which could be some of these other conversations, right? And we got to have fun doing it, because if not, you drive yourself crazy.
I'm going to do a demonstration of my bidet. I'm going to do a demonstration of my bidet. We can have that show. What do you think?
I think it's
Toilet
amazing.
Cam.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you guys, there's so many challenges that they don't understand, Dwayne. So I drink coffee. I drank all this coffee, and I'm sitting in this hard chair, and nature's got a call, man. 3.5 hours, right? And I've had knee surgery and everything, but I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Dude, that has really done a number on me over the past several years. Sitting at this desk all day.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The exercise I get is when I get off of here and I'm on the phone. I'm walking around the yard, trying to get my exercise in. But what are some of the challenges you guys don't understand when you got a prairie dog for 3 hours so I can talk to you guys?
That took me a second. I went, prairie dog. You're prairie dogging it. Oh.
That's just like on Rat Race when she said, what was it, John Lovitz? Let's prairie dogging. It took him a minute too. He said, "Oh
my God!" Oh no, yeah, we've been.
It's true though.
Yeah, we've been on for 3.
Yeah. It's about time to get off. Look, dude, you guys had Sunday school, you had the sermon, you had the choir, and everything today, brother. And I hope you come back next Sunday. And when you do, bring your Dad Talk Today cups. That you call, that you message the page.
Maybe you can make a church candle out of it. Yeah, they look like candles. I'm throwing.
No.
I know they look like.
It's
candles.
it. I know. When I first saw it, I was like, "What?" But I actually like it because it fits in all cup holders.
There you go.
A lot of times the Yetis don't, dude. It really sucks. Like it's my last day of hunting. I got to go hunting, but like my hunting chair, my Yeti don't fit in there, but this does.
That does. Yeah.
And then look at the design. Look at what it's for. And it's sad, dude. We're trying to fight family law, and I'm selling cups. There's your reality. There's your reality. I'm asking for stars, memberships, and cups. And we're very limited on which ones come in. And we don't share that battle with the community enough is the problem, because we know what you guys are going through. That's another reason getting some outside people in here, dude. It's like throwing rocks at people that got machine guns. They are very well oiled. And the machine is working as it's supposed to. And in order to be able to fight that machine, imagine going up against a monster truck and you got a Hot Wheel car.
Reminds me of Idiocracy. Actually, I'm gonna throw some heat out there. Eric has never seen Idiocracy, so everyone get mad at
Nah.
him. The
But I
very
was
end
watching the
scene-
new Beavis and Butthead last night, and
Well,
Mike
yeah,
Judge is the one that did
prioritize.
Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got to watch Idiocracy when you get a chance. There's so many similarities. There's actually the huge monster truck fighting against a little Yugo at the very end with the phylactic or thing. Anyway, funny, hilarious movie if you haven't seen it.
Dude,
And your internet is
Justin
really
Compton just
messing
sent
up.
in something on
Oh.
Cash App. Thank you, brother.
Oh wow,
It
Yeah,
is.
Thank you.
But thank you, Justin. I just got that in. Like, and I want to give you guys, credit when you do something like that. I mean, several of the stars. So if you guys wonder, like, the star's worth a penny. That's what we get off of it is a penny. But that dude, every penny helps. And thank you guys when they come in. So you'd see in 200 stars or 50 stars, it's 50 cents. I mean, just this program alone right now to stream one's like $125 a month. And then you got we
All the
won't
other
even get
stuff.
enough in stars to cover StreamYard. And that's why we asked for this. And we probably need to be more transparent. So, because in order to organize, like we're talking about,
Mhm.
it's going to take some of you guys learning how to do fundraisers and stuff and taking care of that part. So the one thing I never want to do is have to advertise cups or say, support me, support me. I don't
Right.
want to do that. I just want to come on here and do what I was doing earlier.
Your thing.
If I could get that part off my back to make sure that I ain't got to worry about the bills and stuff, I guarantee you would see a much, much different dad talk, dude. Because that weighs you down. It really
Right.
does. And it's just like the other night, talking to Jennifer and talking to, John Mass' dad, Maria, and everything.
Maria.
I'm sitting there and I got all these ideas that I want to do. I'm like, ready to go. But we can't.
Yeah, and we're stepping out in faith to help them get that community for what they've unfortunately been through to help them and try to create there. Yeah, there's a lot of ideas. Unfortunately, getting funding to at least get that started. I mean, Eric, you've shown that you can do a lot with pennies. We need.
Oh, yeah.
The group
Well,
needs some more
don't kid
pennies.
yourself, dude.
Yeah,
A lot of that was my money. A lot of that was my money.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's-
And that's the other side of it too. People see it and like, oh, he's getting all this. No, it wasn't either. That was my hard work, sweat and tears that I went and did this for
True.
the community. I'm not asking for any hand claps or anything right now. But dude, had COVID not happened,
Mhm.
we would have never had the movement that we had because I lost my job due to no fault of my own. They closed the company down.
Right.
And as it closed down is when unemployment happened. And then airplane tickets went to like $20. Okay.
Yeah.
And that
Gave that
was what
opportunity.
birthed this movement and allowed Dad Talk to grow. Because had that not happened, the things that you saw would not have happened because we wasn't getting it here. Okay.
Right.
And a lot of that came self-funded. But I had a vision and it did it, and I still have a vision. I'm still running on that passion. And baby, I feel it. I've got
Feel it.
I've got a feeling that it's coming. I got a feeling that tonight's
you're-
gonna be a good night. Is
Let's
that Black
move
Eyed Peas?
I believe that is. Let's move down to Josh here real quick. Is
Yeah.
asking, do you have the statistics, resources, list of movies, and everything available somewhere? I hate to plug my own site. PissedOffParent.com has that data available. If you go to PissedOffParent.com, all the stats, all the data, the links, and all that, the videos, Red Pill, Divorce Corp, all those things are there. It's actually all categorized and all that for your viewing pleasure. And again, all 100% free. Please use it. That would be, and that goes for everybody. When you start
Todd
talking to your
says
churches,
no production.
Wait, no production happens. And people can see behind the scenes unless they've lived it. Yeah.
Well, dude, I mean, like one thing that I thought was really cool, and it was because we was out there running on passion anyway. When me and Garza was going all across the country like madmen, when we would be in the car driving in the middle of nowhere, we was live from the cell phone. We had bought a little clip, so we wasn't being irresponsible trying to hold it or anything. But I was sitting there watching and driving while I was talking, and dude, there was some of those lives that went on for 6 or 7 hours. No crap, like in between the traveling, just like talk to us. We're here to fight for you. This road time is time that I'm away from my family, so I want to be fighting for you. What is it you need to talk about? I'm in a car right now. I can't read your messages, but Robert can read your comments and I can respond to them here. And we was showing the behind the scenes as we was there, inviting people out just to kind of give them a glimpse. Like, I wish the whole movement could just walk one day in the Capitol, hear the responses, and get to see what that process is like. And that's just one little angle that people ask us to do, right?
Right.
And it gives you a different respect for the ones that do it.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, you'll have a group, I'd say, even if they got it, you'll see the most of the time 5, but it usually be down to like 1 or 2 people in each state that are really committed, that are making the action happen in that state. That has their stuff together. And you want to know what's happening? They're limited on resources. They're burning off a passion, and they do it until they can't do it no more. And then they leave because they're begging people to help them. Dwayne, begging people. That's where Texas is a little bit different. You have a ton of advocates there at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Which organization is going to be doing it today is going to determine who shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's that's the reality behind it, is you'll have like that one guy there that's spearheading this and burning themselves to keep other people warm, begging, please come help me, come do this.
Yeah.
And I hate seeing that, dude, because that guy should have an army behind him. And you know what? Those are usually the guys that nobody knows their name. There's a lot of them out there. Most people have no idea that those guys even exist. And they are marching that Capitol, doing a lot of thankless work, man. Doing a lot of thankless work.
Yeah, you got a lot of
and
people.
There was some of those states that, they could use a little bit. What's that?
Well, thinking of there was an unnamed person that may be on the screen right now in Texas. I'm sorry, not the person on screen is in Texas, but that person went ahead and printed out, was it 5,000 pamphlets to hand out to legislators in a state he didn't even live in to try to help out. Hasn't really talked about it. I'm putting you on fire right now. That would be Eric.
Oh, dude, I printed up
almost
almost 1,000 pages of research and sent it into the legislation. I don't have a printer at home. So guess where that money came from?
Your back pocket.
And I printed it up at a UPS print shop, and then I had to send it in a computer box, all that research, because they said they didn't have no research. And I showed up for HB 803. Yeah. And if I got paid for doing that, show me who paid me for doing that. But I will say this. That was one of those moments that I remember Garza and Morgan and all those guys, because I got a lot of friends down there in Texas. They was like, Eric, this is our moment. We want you here with us. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else. I'm here for you. And you know what?
Your wife.
When Georgia had their meeting, Garza was here. And that was one of the things. We help out each other.
Yeah.
We help out each other, because I'm going to tell you, if we had a team of some of these guys in each state that did travel around to certain states and said, hey, because you don't have it here, let's come here and let's help provide you some structure and get some people here, you would see more action. Texas is a rare case. You got a lot of different people that are involved there. Some of these states, like I said, dude, it's like 3 or 5 people that are actually getting out there and doing the work, and how they've kept their head in the game. I have no idea. I don't, man. But it is 1:45, and my wife's off work today. So yeah. I probably need to go. It's the last day of hunting. That's how much I love you guys. I got a deer that I have been stalking for 3 months. And dude, he only comes at night. And he has been picking at me. He's only an 8-pointer, but he has one of the biggest racks I've ever seen. And I want him. And I don't think I'm going to get him this year. I want it. I want it so bad. I'm actually very depressed that hunting is going away, because it was one of the things that forced me to take a break, just sit in nature, not look at the cell phone, not do dad talk stuff, and breathe. Sometimes we forget to breathe. and just getting out there in nature, guys. Let me tell you, that right there could be therapy. You know what? You know what? If you need to talk about your story, get in the mirror, and I want you to say everything you want to say. Don't worry about how you're saying it. Just say it. Get it off your chest by yourself. And then I want you to get out there in nature where nothing's at. Don't pick up that cell phone and breathe.
Yeah.
Try not to think, because that's what keeps you clear up here, man. And that don't cost you anything. That don't cost you anything but getting out there, and you gain everything, really.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting from the hunting. And yeah, I started my day off like that. And I'm kind of sad that it's going away.
Well, you could, no, I was going to say, you could ignore
could
those
do it
laws. You could do it anyway.
No.
The deer, it ran
No.
out in front of my car. I don't know what happened. My gun accidentally discharged.
Somebody
It was
said
the
bass fishing. I was doing the fishing too. I did the fishing before it was that. Fishing, it's weird. If I'm hunting and I'm not seeing a deer, I'm in nature, I'm okay. But if I'm fishing and I'm not catching a fish, I can't stand it. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Where
it's gonna
are
be.
you?"
I need
Come-
fish. Well,
I need
give it your
fish.
shotgun and go in there. And
Why can't we do it like in our parents' days, man? They had the cherry bombs they could throw in there, the rotary telephones, right? You just put them down in there and crank it, and they all come up to the top.
yeah,
Then that takes the sport out of it too.
that may. Be
I
it.
guess I don't have no good fishing holes.
That could be it too. Yeah, may have to talk to some old guy. Maybe anyone out there that's in the Georgia area can mention any special.
Parnell Smith would come
little
with me.
spots.
He's a fisherman.
There you go. Maybe have fishing with dad talk. Ooh,
Fishing with dad talk.
you could have
Dude,
the
I need to
pole
get
out
back on
there
the
and-
video game. Somebody was mentioning us getting on Twitch, and I was like, Twitch is
Yes.
more like for video gamers. But could you imagine a bunch of dads just getting up,
You could do
getting
it here.
all this off our mind, and let's get on some zombies or some Call of Duty or Fortnite? I know there's a lot of the guys that play Fortnite in here. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's my only enjoyment, man. It's just getting on there with my brother and stuff. And video games can be a healthy thing. I hate how demonized video games gets.
Oh yeah.
Your kid shouldn't be sat up in their bedroom doing that all day long. Absolutely not. At the same time, if they got a healthy balance in a couple of hours a day or 1 hour or something, they're going and playing video games. It can be team building. It can be many different things. Communication. It can be a very healthy thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say
But-
set it up. Set one up.
Yeah. Which game are we going to play?
I wanna
What
do-
games do you play, guys? Let's hear. If we actually set up something with Dad Talk, which game are we going to play?
Yeah, throw it in the comments. Last time I played COD was with my boys. Yeah. I wouldn't mind doing
Oh, dude,
a COD.
it's fun.
Yeah,
Huh?
doing Call of Duty 3 zombies, pick a map and just run with it.
I'll do that one.
Yeah. Do you have
Dude,
the
I'll have to
PC
show you how to.
version?
Huh?
Do you have the PC version or the Xbox or PlayStation?
I got it on Xbox and PlayStation. So I would, but the thing is, they didn't have cross-platform on BO3.
Right. Yeah.
They
that's
did
the
on
issue.
Cold War.
Yeah. And I have.
Do you have Cold War?
I haven't even played Cold War.
Do you have it?
The kids do. I don't.
Dude, I'll walk you through it.
That one looks. I mean, 4 pretty well knocked me out, and I think the next one after
4
that.
sucked.
Yeah.
4 sucked. And then they came out with that Vanguard. That was the worst game ever made in the history
Yeah.
of video games, if you ask me. But Cold War brought it back, brother. Cold War was a good one.
All right, I'll have to check.
And
it
if
out.
they would have kept it like Cold War afterwards, there was parts of Cold War that I liked better than BO3.
So if I were to get Cold War on Steam, I would then be able to play with you cross-platform.
Yep.
Okay, I might have to see Cold War. I might have to do that and show how old and bad I am.
And then we'll have to video it and show you guys
yeah.
what we can do.
We can do it live.
We can do it. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'll show you some Easter eggs.
Okay.
And
yeah.
see, I'm pretty good in that. If you go down, Dwayne, I can get you back up. I can carry you, man.
You'll be carrying me. Yeah, I can do okay at 3 on like Ascension and Kindertoten and all that. I can do pretty decent on there, but yeah, I'll need to be carried at some point.
So everybody talking about fishing. There's a fishing game on there too, man. I was playing one day when I couldn't get out. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really fun. There's all these things.
There's VR fishing. which I'm just like, okay, that's that next level. I don't know if I can do that, but
There's somebody out there right now. They're not talking about family law and they're not talking about this. They're doing a disservice to these guys. Let me ask you a question. You see what these guys are going through. If we could get them on one of these games and get them to play that, and they're sitting there with a smile, not thinking about this crap for an hour or two, what could be better than that?
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all in your
sometimes-
perception and how you look at things, right? It
Yeah, we don't
really
have
is.
we don't have to be 24/7. This is horrible. There needs to be the balance, and I don't. Hopefully, no
Absolutely.
one's talking about. Hopefully, no one's talking down about that. I
No,
mean, there
they're
needs to
not,
be-
but
okay, good. I was like,
I know this community well enough, dude. Anytime like I've stepped outside of that, this is what you talk about. This is what you talk. And remember what I said. These people that say you got to do it my way, you got to do this. I felt
Yeah.
sorry for your spouses.
yeah. God.
I mean, there's people that think they're supposed to run my show from the comments. I love my guys in the comments. Don't get me wrong.
there's some that,
You're gonna do it this way, really?
yeah.
You ever seen a tan rear end? It's not so tan right now, but
You can kiss my tan hiney. Oh, guys.
All right, guys.
I'll definitely get Cold War downloaded, and we'll set something, maybe like a Friday nighty Cold War or thing or something like that. Give me at least a week to warm up to it. We'll see.
I think I need to walk you through it a couple of times first. We'll
Yeah.
get you ready. We'll make sure you look good on there, Dwayne, before we,
Oh, yeah.
we jump into the deep end on it. All right, guys, we are about to hit the 4-hour mark. This is probably the longest one we have done. I haven't done a 4-hour show since I had Jonathan Vanderhagen on.
Yeah.
But they keep getting longer, and I hope this has been useful for you guys. And I hope that this platform finds you well. Somebody was saying they like the memes and stuff in between. Let me tell you something. In the past couple months, I've had nothing to do with the memes. Every once in a while, like I did put the one about Xavier this morning. I want to find Xavier. I want to interview Xavier. He's got some really good stuff, and I'm going to put it on there. But this is where my heart is with Dad Talk. I wish it was nothing but the show and the content. Unfortunately, those memes reach a lot of people that sometimes the show don't. The show reaches a lot of people that sometimes the memes don't. So it's about having this multi approach, but don't ever judge Dad Talk according to the meme. Unfortunately, that is what feeds social media, and it's the part I wish we could get rid of, dude. It really is.
There are some good
And that's
memes
just-
out there.
There is some good ones. Yeah.
I know you-
Don't get me wrong.
You like the show. you like
There's
the
some other
media.
ones though.
Yeah.
Like there was one that was on there the other day, like a step parent could be the best thing that a child can have. And you know me, dude. I'm like, you talking about Mighty Mouse? Like, you want me to get in these comments? And I didn't post that when I know who did, and they would feel the same way. But it's like people would be quick to judge you off of a meme, not knowing how you feel. And the ones that usually have the loudest voice are not the ones that are going to be in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll try to judge the platform and never actually sat down and listened to what we got to say. But I appreciate everybody that can sit through a podcast that long, and a lot of you have. So God bless you, man.
Thank you.
God bless you, and tell your pastors we want to talk to them.
Yes.
Put them red pills in the offering plate, guys. If you'd like to support this show, right down there at the bottom, Cash App, Venmo, and thank you to Justin for doing that earlier. Cash App, Venmo, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. Also, if you go to Patreon.com and look up Dad Talk Today, patreon.com/Dad Talk Today. That is a monthly contribution, and you can sign up for whatever you want to do. And then every month we can count on your contribution to come in here and help what we do. I get $230 a month on that. How's that for transparency? That
There you
helps
go.
pay for StreamYard.
That
But
pays
we're going to need a
StreamYard
lot
so
more
much.
than that to fight with those rocks. Okay. You can join memberships on YouTube. And I saw I saw Joseph Villarreal did it the
Oh,
other
Joe
day.
did. Cool.
Yeah, Joe got it in there.
Joe's a
So
good
thank
guy.
you. I pay attention, dude. You can do the memberships there on YouTube, which is similar to Patreon. And you can do the super chats, which we actually got a little bit earlier today. And then the stars and the memberships on Facebook. And I appreciate for everybody that does it. And don't forget, these are not candles. These are really good. Look, I've had that thing for 4 hours. I still got ice in it, brother.
All
It's just
right.
like when I put it in there. Quality. And it's
Quality.
Dad Talk Today. And you can get yours now. And wait, there's more. Just message me on Facebook. We'll tell you what the more is.
Oh.
It's called Costs more to ship it. There's the ways that you can support, and I guess that's it. We might go on later on. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's see
we'll
what
see.
happens today. I've been taking a break in the evening, guys. We've been wanting to do a double, but there's a lot. We did 4 hours of podcasting
4
today. I don't know if I
hours.
could do that again tonight. So, all right, we're
All right,
gonna see you guys at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Hey, next week when we come back to Father's Rights Church, is your mom and dad gonna be with you? Is your aunt, your uncle, your siblings? Why not?
Homework.
Where's your friends? You know somebody that's going through that. Bring them. Bring one, bring all. Come as you are. I'm not going to worry about what you're dressed up in, and I'm not going to judge you based on any of that. We're not going to do any of that. We want every one of you. I don't care what your religion is. Maybe you're not going to church. I want the atheists. I want the Muslims, the Islamics, everybody. If you are a father, I want everybody in here. We've got something in common. We love our families.
Hmm.
I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about the things that divide us. We love our families. And so if you're a person that loves your family, we want you here. And so don't ever let any of these conversations, politics or anything divide us. No. That's the thing that unites us. And I'm thankful for each and every single one of you. On that note, Dwayne, let me go get me a deer, brother.
See y'all later.
See you, man. Hey, everybody. Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/Dad Talk Today, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.